Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Championship Saturday event for the Glimmer Gauntlet. I'm so excited to be here. My name is Teddy. I'm one of the hosts of the Glimmer Gang, and I am here joined by Brandon or B Squared, an honorary member of the Glimmer Gang. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing awesome, Teddy. I'm so excited for the finale. I mean, like
Yeah.
this has been going on for a couple months, or I say probably about 2 months at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Been planned a long time before
Yeah.
that. We're finally reaching the peak of this. We're gonna find out who the winner is today, so I'm very excited.
Yeah, so if you guys don't know what the Glimmer Gauntlet is, it is a tournament of 15 content creators. They were randomly assigned an ink pairing in Lorcana. You can only use rares and lower for your deck, and they've been playing it out in a single elimination tournament. We have four players left. We have Liam running Amethyst Steel, we have Blake running Amethyst Emerald, Jacob running Sapphire Steel, and Eric running Emerald Ruby. Eric and Jacob is our first match, and Liam and Blake is our second match. Two pretty good matches for today. I'm really excited about it. What about you?
Yeah, I'm really excited. It's been a very interesting bracket run for all
Mm-hmm.
four of these guys. The having the constriction of not being able to play super rares or legendaries really forces the players to think outside the box and craft something a little bit different than what we normally see in constructed play. I know all of the players spent lots of time laboring over these decks, trying to figure out what would work best for them. So it's really awesome to see what they've come up with. And, the ones that are here so far have been rewarded for their hard work.
Mm-hmm.
And it's awesome to see them fighting for their respective charities. So, yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, if you guys didn't know, this is a charity event. Basically, how it has worked is everyone has picked a charity, and then they are playing for that charity, and we have a gauntlet fund. So if you guys do want to donate, link will be in the description. You can also check out all four charities that these lovely gentlemen have chosen. But the winner, all the money that we donate, or we raised and donated, will go to their charity of choice. Brandon, do you want to just kind of talk about which charity each person has chosen?
Sure. So we'll start with Blake from the Glimmer Gang, y'all's very own. He's
Mm-hmm.
running the Emerald Amethyst deck, and he is playing for the Sick Kids Foundation. The Sick Kids Foundation is Canada's most research-intensive hospital, and it has the largest center dedicated to improving children's health in Canada. Like Teddy said, there should be links in the description to some of these charities, or you should be able to find them if you do a quick Google search. So you should definitely check that one out. And then Liam, who Blake will be facing, and this will be match two, is playing for the Court Appointed Special Advocates of Travis County, Texas. They provide support to youth in the foster care system, and they provide trained volunteers to serve as advocates to children in the foster care system. So that's a really awesome cause as well. He'll be playing Amethyst Steel versus Blake. But for our match one, we have Jacob versus Eric. Jacob is playing for the American Cancer Society. They provide screening, lodging, and travel for treatment. So it's sort of a national charity that,
Mm-hmm.
helps
Yeah.
in a bunch of different states. And then Eric is playing for the Thompson Autism and Neurodevelopment Center at the Children's Hospital of Orange County. They are a research, support, and diagnostics facility for children with autism, and so they specialize in um, doing lots of research on that, specifically like with children, and finding symptoms of it really early, screening, helping people with that. So, really awesome causes for all four of these. Whoever ends up winning, that's where the charity
Yeah.
funds will end up going. So I'm really excited to see who wins, even just to see where this ends up going. And if you guys want to check any of that, again, it's in the description. If you feel like donating, that's awesome. If not, even just sharing the stream so that we can get
Yeah.
this word spread even further, and hopefully, support some of these charities would be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So that's sort of the overview on what each player is playing for today.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Four great causes, like you said. These are wonderful organizations that do so much good work in different areas of the world. It's kind of a worldwide thing. Obviously, some are focused more like in Toronto and Los Angeles with American Cancer Society, a worldwide thing. And so these
Mm-hmm.
all four amazing organizations. But I think we're nearly ready for round one. Like I said, it's between Jacob and Eric. Jacob running Sapphire Steel, Eric running Emerald Ruby. Brandon, you're going to be joined by Jay for casting. Brandon will be
Mm-hmm.
casting all 3 games today with 3 other special guests. So we are going to take a quick break, probably 4 or 5 minutes, to get over to that. But then we will be right back, and we will join you guys then.
Don't go anywhere. Hello and welcome everyone to match one of the semifinals for the Glimmer Gauntlet. My name is B Squared, also known as Brandon. I'll be your caster today. We have Eric and Jacob playing, and I am joined by the very skilled Jalen. What's up, Jay? How are you doing?
Hey, how's it going, Brandon? It's gonna be such an amazing match. Can't wait for it. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm very excited. For anybody who hasn't been following the tournament so far, Eric is playing a Emerald Ruby uh aggro location deck sort of, and Jacob's playing a Sapphire Steel sort of control and almost anti-location deck. I'm very interested to see how this match goes. Eric is a very low to the ground, very aggressive deck. He's playing cards like Cursed Merfolk, Enchantress, Minnie Mouse Surfer, pretty standard aggressive cards, but he's also playing a little bit of spice. There's some Zazus that are in there that care about being at locations, and he's playing locations like RLS Legacy and Fang that he can move his characters to give them evasive or give them evasive and ward, make it really difficult for Jacob to interact with them, which if he can get some of those out might be beneficial. He's also playing a couple tempo cards like Cloud Kicker and Mother Knows Best so that he can keep his advantage on board. And then Jacob, like I mentioned, is playing a Sapphire Steel list that's very location heavy itself, but also a little bit anti-location. He's playing a couple of Rise of Titans. He's playing a few Babooms. Also, along came Zeus's. He's running the typical Hiram and Popsicle line, but it seems like he's leaning very heavy into locations with McDuck Manors, Montanuis, playing a couple of the Bayous with some John Silvers to gain a bunch of resist and some lore. So I'm very eager to see how this match goes. What are your thoughts, Jay, on this matchup, on this ink pairing for both of these players?
Yeah, I just have to say, if you watched Jacob's earlier games, I was super impressed at how well his deck can curve. I think that's one of the strengths of his deck, especially like getting out those Smees on turn two in steel is just super strong. And then I do believe what was it? Jacob, I think runs John Silver's too, which could potentially get resist. So I think this matchup may depend on just which player has a better curve, and just against aggro too. Like on Eric's side, if he gets a really quick start, it's just gonna be really hard to outrace or control Eric's aggro deck. But at the same time, Jacob has those early steel cards that can just dominate the board too. So we'll see how the players mulligan and how they develop the first 2 or 3 turns.
Yeah, I think Jacob ended up winning the die roll. He's the one with the RSD logo on the playmat. So I believe he's going to end up going first, but I totally agree. Jacob has the Captain Hooks and the Smees, even Bodyguard Hercules that he can play to curve out and potentially stop Eric before Eric gets going. And even though Eric is playing some aggro staples like Curse Merfolk, if Eric gets a couple Curse Merfolk, then Jacob might be forced to challenge into them, discarding some cards. He's teching Beast Mirror in his deck, which allows you to draw cards when you don't have any cards in hand. So even if he ends up running a little bit low, he's a little bit safe on that front. So I'm eager to see how this goes. It looks like they're starting the match. Jacob's going first. He's going to ink a Bodyguard Hercules and start with a Captain Hook. Really strong start from him, just having something on board already to say, Eric, I know what your game plan is. Whatever you play, I'm going to have something on board to challenge it as soon as it's exerted.
Totally fair. Captain Hook is once again a staple, really strong against aggro and locations, just being able to deal 3 damage right off the bat. And we see Eric playing that Zazu you mentioned, a little bit of spice. You don't see that card super often, but that's definitely a sign of locations to follow up there.
Yeah, I'll be eager to see if Eric actually exerts this Zazu next turn or not, because the lowest cost location that Eric is playing is actually a 3 cost. He's playing 3 Agrabah, so it'll be a couple turns before Zazu can really get any value out of it. We see that Jacob's going to go ahead and quest for 1 with Captain Hook. This might just be an opportunity to challenge into the hook with Zazu if Eric wants to, but he might just be holding back and waiting to drop a couple locations to get some value out of Zazu.
Yeah, I agree. Though I am very surprised that Jacob gave the option to Eric to do that trade. It's definitely tempting because Zazu, looking at Jacob's board right now, isn't going to be doing too much. Maybe questing for one or two, but at the most, I feel like Jacob is gonna take him out pretty quickly. It does seem like Eric is running some bounce. So that might be a option of trying to keep the Zazu on the board, but or just ways to protect the Zazu, like we see playing out the Foos. So one quick question: do you know if Eric is running any Prince Johns with his discard stuff?
No, he's
No.
not playing
Okay,
any Prince Johns, I don't think.
got it.
At least not in the deck list. But
That makes sense.
you and I actually commentated over one of Eric's games earlier in the
Mhm.
rounds, Eric versus Pablo, and we saw the strength of cards like LeFou and Fan the Flames, cards that just allow Eric to keep his characters on board and readied instead of exerted so that he can get the most value out of them. One of the things we talked about back then was how strong it is for Eric to keep characters on board because Emerald and Ruby don't have a ton of draw in them. I'm actually not sure that there's any cards in Eric's list that draw him very many cards. So being able to get the most mileage out of his characters on board is super important. So I love seeing the LeFou there being able to ready Zazu and keep him out of harm's way, at least for now. Playing into Steel is a little bit riskier because Steel has all those removal actions that
Yo.
they can use if they want to.
And even not just removal, but just all of those two character lores. The Mr. Smee's putting in a lot of good work. Jacob playing down the second copy of Mr. Smee, and normally Mr. Smee's would take one damage if they're exerted, but Captain Hook is a captain, and Mr. Smee, if you have a captain on the board, he doesn't take any damage. So it's definitely a lot of uh it's a daunting board from Jacob's side right now. So we see the kit coming down to bounce the Captain Hook, which it's interesting. I wonder if he bounced the Captain Hook so that it didn't get a free challenge, even though the Mr. Smees do cost more to play down. But yeah, right now I'm guessing oh yeah, Hiram for the card draw on Jacob's side. I'm wondering, is Jacob going to just quest with the Mr. Smees in order to just start racing because he has 4 lore from the Mr. Smees, or is he gonna just wipe the board? I would tend to favor controlling the board, but maybe yeah, Jacob is just gonna quest and say, you gotta. I know you're an aggro deck, but I'm putting you on the board control side of things because I have a more threatening board right now than you do.
Yeah, Jacob's in a really great position. Got a really phenomenal opener, being able to get at least a quest off with one of those Smees and not take any damage because of the Captain Hooks. But having 5 lore on board currently, having his draw engine there with Hiram and Popsicle, if he looked at Eric's list, he knows that there's probably not much Eric has to deal with the Hiram other than being able to bounce it back to hand, which isn't a terrible thing for Jacob because Hiram just banishes stuff as soon as he's played. And so I actually kind of like the Smees being exerted here because it does put Eric on the back foot, and that's the exact opposite place you want to be in an aggro deck match because or not in a match but in the aggro deck area you don't want to be on the back foot. You don't want to be the one challenging like we see Eric do here because you're trying to race to the end. But of course we see Eric challenge one of the Smees and then he uses Cloud Kicker to sing Mother Knows Best and bounce one of the Smees back to Jacob's hand, preventing him from being able to quest with it this next turn,
The
creating a little bit of a tempo shift.
Yeah, the interesting thing to know is normally when we see Hiram, we think about him as a card draw engine, but in this case, he's also useful keeping that Zazu a little bit in check because Hiram has one attack which generally can't kill much, but it can kill the Zazu, which caused Eric to not be able to quest with the Zazu. And we do see a swords come down, which does 2 damage to the board and pretty much cleans up the board. Notably, it doesn't do any damage to the location. So the RLS Legacy is going to put in work helping Eric just gain that passive lore.
Yeah, I'm sure Grab Your Swords was the last card that Eric wanted to see from Jacob this early on, but I really like the RLS Legacy for this reason. It avoids some of that wide removal that Jacob has available to him, and this is exactly what I was thinking would happen. Eric can just play out a bunch of small characters that quest for a lot of lore. Next turn, he should be able to move them to RLS Legacy, giving them evasive, and then just quest out with him. And he has to really hope that Jacob doesn't have any more wide removal, but it's going to make it really difficult for Jacob to respond if he can't take out this RLS Legacy. So Jacob kind of has to think now, do I play characters that get rid of the location, or do I play actions in this case that might damage the location and get rid of it? Or do I focus more on the characters themselves to remove, kind of splitting his priorities?
Yeah, and we see Alankheim Zeus come down dealing 5 damage to the RLS Legacy. It makes me want to think that Jacob had maybe like a smash or something else to finish it off, but it doesn't seem like it. So he just wanted to put the damage there so that he'll be able to finish it off with Captain Hook or Mr. Smee next turn. But having said that, that is a lot of lore from Eric. All of a sudden, Eric is back in the race and is a little bit in the driver's seat here, just going to be able to gain 5 lore from the Simba and the Cursed Merfolk. Though now, the option to move both of those characters onto the RLS Legacy doesn't seem very promising, knowing that Jacob can just take it out next turn, and then his exerted characters will no longer have that protection, evasive protection. So I don't know if Eric is gonna move his characters there, or if he's just gonna potentially play out another location or another character. A bounce is also really good just to be able to bounce back. Oh, and we
Oh, no.
see a cat walk across the screen. I wonder what Eric is gonna bounce back. Because yeah, like Smee, but then you still have the Captain Hook. And yeah, you got Simba, but I think Jacob's next turn is just gonna be running the Captain Hook into the RLS Legacy and killing the Merfolk with the Flaversham. So Jacob is no longer, I think, going to be as interested in racing Er- Eric, and just going to be doing a little bit of damage control here.
Yeah, that didn't take long at all for positions to switch, where Eric is
Yeah.
now sort of in the driver's seat. He's already up to 12 lore and has currently 7 lore on board if nothing changes. Of course, we expect the Captain Hook to challenge into the RLS Legacy. Yeah, and that's what we see right now to just to get rid of that lore and the threat there. And if Jacob decides to challenge into the Cursed Merfolk, he'll have to remove a card from his hand, or he'll have to discard a card from hand. He has 4 cards in hand right now, so that's not the worst. And he has a Hiram that, if he can find another item, can create more card draw. So I'm interested to see what he does here. He seems to be really thinking about this next play. He's going to play down the Smee that got bounced back last turn.
And notably, the other thing is if the let it go on the Simba probably because that's 3 lore
Yeah.
unexerted. But notably, if he inks or maybe he doesn't, I was about to say if he doesn't have a hand, uses up all of his cards in hand, then attacking into the Cursed Merfolk doesn't make you discard because you don't have anything to discard. So that's generally a option that a lot of players use against cards such as Cursed Merfolk or the what was it? Prince or Flynn Riders. But we do see that Jacob does has cards in his hand, so that's why he opted not to attack into the Cursed Merfolk that previous turn. But that is 2 lore that he could have prevented there, so it's going to be very interesting how he manages to deal with all of this kind of aggro that's coming down on Eric's side.
Yeah, that 2 extra lore might end up mattering in the long run. We see the Merfolk being challenged now, and Jacob discards another Floodborn Hercules because Eric's getting really close to 20. He's at 14 currently. He has 4 lore on board that can't be touched, and so Jacob's going to quest out. But he just can't catch up. Let's see. If Eric quests this turn, he can get to 18, and then next turn, I don't think Jacob has it next turn, so he's going to be forced to respond to Eric's board, which he should be able to do pretty easily.
Right.
Eric doesn't play anything this turn though, which is
Oh
really
no.
interesting.
Yeah, Eric needed a two-lore character because without a two-lore character, I think he doesn't threaten lethal next turn, and he needed to there.
Yeah, that might be what decides the game.
Yeah.
We're definitely going to see the challenge into Simba with the Captain Hook, and then he's going to challenge Zazu with Hiram there just to clear Eric's board. And now I think Jacob might just be one turn soon enough.
Oh man. Yeah, that's such I wonder what he has in his hand because
Oh
Voyage.
no!
He had a Voyage. That
He
doesn't
had
oh
Voyage.
man.
If he was just one card deeper, he could have played the Enchanted and won that turn. That was an
Yep.
extremely close game between
It
Eric
was.
and Jacob. And Eric went second that game, by the way. You know, typically aggro decks do better on the play than they do on the
Yep.
draw. And that was an extremely close game from
It
Eric.
was.
Jacob takes game one. I imagine Eric's going to go first in game two. And you know, he might be able to take it on game two with being that close after this first game, especially against a steel deck of all things. You know, we
Ye-
saw that Jacob drew the grab your sword. He had a very strong early start with Captain Hooks and Smeeze. He also had the Hiram to draw a couple extra cards, and even in along came Zeus to help get rid of that RLS legacy pretty early. And uh, with Eric's tempo cards like Kick Cloud Kicker and Mother Knows Best, and even those bounce cards, he was really able to stay ahead on tempo and just get so close, get inches away from winning that game.
Yeah. Really quick question, Brandon. Do you know if Jacob runs Rise of the Titans? I think he
He
does,
does.
right?
He's running 2
Yeah,
Rise of the Titans.
because I think in that game, Jacob really had a tough time dealing with the RLS legacy. So I wonder if this time he's more keen on maybe trying to grab a Rise of the Titans because we saw how much work that RLS legacy it took Jacob a Rise of the Titans and just having that Captain Hook in order to kill that RLS legacy. So I think maybe Eric realized that location that's still a little bit of a problem for Jacob there.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely could be. I'm eager to see what happens in game two. I want to take this time real quick just to highlight the charities that these guys are playing for as well, so that people can remember. I know we mentioned it earlier, but I like to highlight it whenever I can. Jacob is playing for the American Cancer Society, playing Sapphire and Steel, and Eric is playing for the Thompson Autism and Neurodevelopment Center at the Children's Hospital of Orange County, playing Emerald Ruby. And if anybody feels like donating, the donation link is down in the description of the GoFundMe. Any support is appreciated. Even just liking and sharing the live stream is appreciated as well. So just so that people have some context on which charities each of these guys are playing for.
Definitely. It's such a cool kind of event thrown together where the players themselves don't have too much on the line, but they're playing for like the charity, and it's just super great to see the players supporting the charities and just utilizing Lorcana in order to help these amazing causes here. While jokingly say I just not too much on the line for the players themselves. I bet there's a lot of kind of uh, what was it? Moxie and just a lot of being able to brag about who wins this tournament too. The players' prides are on the line here. So
Yeah, exactly. Your pride's on the line. You want to win for your charity. Everything I hear from Teddy and Blake and Sean in the actual Glimmer game, you know, it sounds like they want to do this again next year. And I think they want to do it even bigger. So, you know, how awesome will it be to walk away from this and say that, you know, that you're the champion of the first Glimmer Gauntlet? You'd be the raid boss of next year.
totally,
It's such a fun event.
totally.
But we're getting into game two. Eric's going first with a really strong opening, playing Chris Merfolk on 1, and we'll see
Yep.
how Jacob responds.
Yeah. we see Jacob ink a Flabbersham, which is interesting because typically you don't necessarily want to ink a card draw. So that might indicate to me that Jacob may have some tough decisions up ahead on which cards he wants to ink there. But Captain Hook, great turn one play just to kind of control that aggro a little bit. And we'll see what Eric ends up
Oh
playing. Oh,
my
oh,
God.
yeah, that's gonna be tough to deal with, huh?
Yeah, that's gonna be tough. Opening 3 Cursed Merfolk off the bat. Jacob doesn't run any ramp in his deck, by the way. Typically in a Sapphire Steel list, you're so used to seeing the Mickey Mouse Detectives or the Fishbone Quills constructed so that you can ramp into a 5 cost or ramp into a very important song right now, which would be Grab Your
Yeah.
Sword. And he doesn't have that. So he's going to be far, far away from a Grab Your Sword, and is going to have to
Speaking of
solely
ramp,
rely
yeah,
on what he can do to challenge characters. We do see the
yeah,
Matanui come down, so he can ramp a little bit there. I mean, unfortunately, the Cursed Merfolk isn't going to banish anything that he challenges
cor-
into.
correct. Yeah, so Montanui, I bet you he's hoping to be able to maybe ramp into a swords because Jacob is still so far away, but this might be a real fast game. Just 3 cursed merfolks, all of that lore real quick. It's just Um, so I wonder, yeah, maybe if he can get a couple of Captain Hooks on the board this turn, that might be able to help a little bit. But just we see the importance of Kit, that Eric played, just be able to slow Jacob down just a little bit, by bouncing the Captain Hook back. Now, um, it is interesting to note that while, yeah, Eric is Jacob is still 2 turns away from Grab Your Swords, which is the card that will save him right now. And
Right.
I think Montanui isn't going to do much work helping him ramp up to that. But Jacob does have one more turn, I think. 2, 4, 6, 7. Yeah, so Jasper only has 7 lore on the board. Um, so Jacob still has 2 turns. So an ink this turn and an ink next turn to bring him to swords. However, I would say that potentially the worrisome thing from Eric's side is any location that comes down. Grab Your Swords would not be able to deal with that. So essentially, if Eric just quested with all of his characters and then played out like an RLS Legacy or something like that, I think that would pretty much be game there.
Yeah, I agree. Eric came out so explosive with those Cursed Merfolk. I mean, they're just getting infinite value here with the amount of lore that they've been able to quest. We
The,
see
yeah.
Jake,
I,
go ahead. Go ahead, Jay.
yeah, I was also about to say the Cursed Merfolk also kind of makes Jacob discard a card and limits Jacob's options too, which serves like a double purpose of pressuring, like racing, and also making it just really hard for your opponents to do stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we see Eric just go all out here. I think he dumps his hand going to 17, and he's basically requiring that Jacob has to grab your sword or else.
Yup.
Um, we'll see if he draws it. Jacob's certainly been digging through his deck with the Popsicle and the Hiram. We'll see if he has it because he didn't have very much to play early to get rid of those Cursed Merfolks.
Mhm.
I mean, they've just been putting on so much pressure, like you said, with
Yep.
threatening the
This looks like a
discard.
grab.
We see
Yep.
5. Okay, he does have the grab your sword.
Yeah.
So the Cursed Merfolks, Enchantress, and Simba are going to go away. 2 damage is going to be put on the Tinkerbell, but Tinkerbell has evasive. And
Yeah.
I don't think Jacob is running any characters that can challenge evasive characters. So he's going to be solely reliant on songs or actions that he can use to banish Tinkerbell in that fashion. Tinkerbell is likely going to be able to quest for at least 2 more next turn, putting Eric at 19. Okay, we see him play Last Cannon
That's
here that he'll be
canon.
able to use to banish with Hiram and draw a couple cards. I think it gives a character Challenger +3 when banished.
I
Um,
think so. But
oh, okay.
we do see Along Came Zeus, which is enough to take. I was about to say it is really important because if Eric gets to 18 or 19, most of his characters can quest for 2. Um, So it's very scary, but 17 still gives Jacob maybe a couple of turns to deal with Eric's players. But uh Jacob is still pretty far away. We do see the John Silvers come down. That can start building or questing very quickly if he gets some locations. But we do see the Hiram start drawing cards for Jacob. So now it's really a matter of uh is Eric going to be able to grab a Simba or grab something that's super relevant there. I think that last draw, I don't think Eric intended, but he did reveal he drew a Fan of Flames, which does not help there. So hopefully Eric gets a threatening character on the board.
Yeah, Eric's top decks have not been great, but
That's
he
a
finds a
great,
Minnie
yeah,
Mouse, an invasive that he can play. That's a great top deck. Jacob, I mean, the game's not over till it's over, right? Like Jacob has been
yeah,
able to draw a ton of cards this game with Hiram and the couple items that he's drawn. That Montanui has been putting in work turn after turn, just slowly getting him closer and closer to 20. He's up to 6 now. The more locations he can play, obviously, the better John Silver is going to be. And that's exactly what we
yeah.
see. Another location be played that's going to give John Silver an extra lore and an extra resist. So it's going to make him very difficult to get rid of. I don't think Eric's really looking to
Oh,
do anything with Jacob's board, but Jacob just drew
yeah,
a ton of Matanui cards that he's playing all over the board.
yeah.
Uh,
The question is, can Jacob win next turn? And I think that's gonna be a really important factor because let's see, he's at 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So I do think Jacob can threaten lethal next turn, which is bad news for Eric. Eric needs to find a way to win. Um, and Minnie Mouse is only gonna quest for 2 there.
yeah, so if Jacob quests, did he play the Smee and the John Silver this turn? I don't think so. I think he can quest with both
No.
this turn, which
Yeah.
would put him up to 4, 5, 6, put him up to 13, like you said. So
Yeah.
then he would get 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah.
So,
He
yeah.
might be able to save it with a bounce card if he can bounce John Silver potentially.
Yeah. A bounce is the best possible. No, the RLS Legacy will not do it. And that is game. That's an exciting game. It's amazing. I think the thing that really helped Jacob win there was the Along came or was it Along Came Zeus? Whatever that killed the Tinkerbell, because otherwise, Eric would have been at 19 going into the turn with the Minnie Mouse. So, it, the matches ended up being super close, and I do think Jacob got some clutch draws to help him deal with Eric's aggro there.
Yeah, I mean, any like Jacob drawing exactly what he needed to, digging through helped him. And if he didn't have a grab your swords or he didn't have one extra removal spell, I mean, that could have been the difference between both games. It was a phenomenal 2 games from both Jacob and Eric. But fortunately for Jacob, he moves on to the finals. We'll see him play against either Blake or Liam after game 2, and they do that. So,
Yeah,
uh,
congratulations to Jacob.
congratulations to Jacob. And then we'll be right back with the semifinal match number 1, or sorry, with the semifinal match number 2 featuring Blake and Liam.
My
Sounds
name is
great.
Liam, and the organization that I'm
I
playing
will.
for is
I will
Court
not.
Appointed Special Advocates, or CASA, of Travis County, Texas. In the areas that they serve, CASA programs provide support to youth in the foster care system, many of which who have suffered abuse or neglect. They do this in a variety of ways. They have a lot of different resources available, but the biggest thing that they do is provide trained volunteers to serve as advocates for those children. These are individuals who get to know the kids and then advocate for them in court. So why is this organization important to me? It's important because I've seen the work that they do. I was fairly lucky growing up. I had a wonderful childhood with parents who supported me and loved me, and I didn't really want for anything. And because of that, I think I am where I am today. And the older I've gotten, the more I've realized that a lot of kids aren't that lucky. There are so many who, through no fault of their own, end up in terrible circumstances and suffer, sometimes unspeakable things at a very young age. And it sets them on a very strange path in life. And many of these kids are overlooked and they end up in the foster care system. They age out sometimes. And for many kids, all it might take is one individual, one moment to really make a difference in their life. And CASA programs are out there providing those moments and providing those individuals. CASA programs can do all sorts of amazing things with the money that they receive, including maybe your gift today. But the biggest thing that it allows them to do is to find and train and support the wonderful volunteers, the people who really make a difference in kids' lives every single day. Our CASA program in Travis County is doing incredible things in our community, and I'm willing to bet that out there in your community, there's a CASA program serving the kids that are in need where you are. So it's definitely something to look up. CASA is a wonderful organization, but so are all of the other organizations the Glimmer Gauntlet players are playing for. So if you make a gift today, I guarantee your money is going to a good place where it'll make a difference.
Hello, my name is Blake, and I'm playing for the Sick Kids Foundation. The Sick Kids Foundation is affiliated with the University of Toronto and is Canada's most research-intensive hospital and the largest center dedicated to improving children's health in the country. This organization is important to myself and my wife, especially. Her siblings grew up with certain medical conditions, and Sick Kids helped them a lot as they grew up, and they are the reason that they are healthy adults today. We just appreciate all that they've done for our family, and we want to continue supporting them and helping future generations overcome any illnesses that they may have to face. Donations will continue to help fund their research into all of these illnesses that they help children face, and puts more money into the programs that they are doing to help these kids and give them the best treatment that they can get. I hope you consider giving a donation today in order to help any of these great causes.
Hi, my name is Liam, and the organization that I'm playing for is Court-Appointed Special Advocates, or CASA, of Travis County, Texas. In the areas that they serve, CASA programs provide support to youth in the foster care system, many of which who have suffered abuse or neglect. They do this in a variety of ways. They have a lot of different resources available, but the biggest thing that they do is provide trained volunteers to serve as advocates for those children. These are individuals who get to know the kids and then advocate for them in court. So why is this organization important to me? It's important because I've seen the work that they do. I was fairly lucky growing up. I had a wonderful childhood with parents who supported me and loved me, and I didn't really want for anything. And because of that, I think I am where I am today. And the older I've gotten, the more I've realized that a lot of kids aren't that lucky. There are so many who, through no fault of their own, end up in terrible circumstances and suffer, sometimes unspeakable things at a very young age. And it sets them on a very strange path in life. And many of these kids are overlooked and they end up in the foster care system. They age out sometimes. And for many kids, all it might take is one individual, one moment to really make a difference in their life. And CASA programs are out there providing those moments and providing those individuals. CASA programs can do all sorts of amazing things with the money that they receive, including maybe your gift today. But the biggest thing that it allows them to do is to find and train and support the wonderful volunteers, the people who really make a difference in kids' lives every single day. Our CASA program in Travis County is doing incredible things in our community, and I'm willing to bet that out there in your community, there's a CASA program serving the kids that are in need where you are. So it's definitely something to look up. CASA is a wonderful organization, but so are all of the other organizations the Glimmer Gauntlet players are playing for. So if you make a gift today, I guarantee your money is going to a good place where it'll make a difference.
Hello, my name is Blake, and I'm playing for the Sick Kids Foundation. The Sick Kids Foundation is affiliated with the University of Toronto and is Canada's most research-intensive hospital and the largest center dedicated to improving children's health in the country. This organization is important to myself and my wife, especially. Her siblings grew up with certain medical conditions, and Sick Kids helped them a lot as they grew up, and they are the reason that they are healthy adults today. We just appreciate all that they've done for our family, and we want to continue supporting them and helping future generations overcome any illnesses that they may have to face. Donations will continue to help fund their research into all of these illnesses that they help children face, and puts more money into the programs that they are doing to help these kids and give them the best treatment that they can get. I hope you consider giving a donation today in order to help any of these great causes.
Hi, my name is Liam, and the organization that I'm playing for is Court Appointed Special Advocates, or CASA, of Travis County, Texas. In the areas that they serve, CASA programs provide support to youth in the foster care system, many of which who have suffered abuse or neglect. They do this in a variety of ways. They have a lot of different resources available, but the biggest thing that they do is provide trained volunteers to serve as advocates for those children. These are individuals who get to know the kids and then advocate for them in court. So why is this organization important to me? It's important because I've seen the work that they do. I was fairly lucky growing up. I had a wonderful childhood with parents who supported me and loved me, and I didn't really want for anything. And because of that, I think I am where I am today. And the older I've gotten, the more I've realized that a lot of kids aren't that lucky. There are so many who, through no fault of their own, end up in terrible circumstances and suffer, sometimes unspeakable things at a very young age. And it sets them on a very strange path in life. And many of these kids are overlooked, and they end up in the foster care system. They age out sometimes. And for many kids, all it might take is one individual, one moment to really make a difference in their life. And CASA programs are out there providing those moments and providing those individuals. CASA programs can do all sorts of amazing things with the money that they receive, including maybe your gift today. But the biggest thing that it allows them to do is to find and train and support the wonderful volunteers, the people who really make a difference in kids' lives every single day. Our CASA program in Travis County is doing incredible things in our community, and I'm willing to bet that out there in your community, there's a CASA program serving the kids that are in need where you are. So it's definitely something to look up. CASA is a wonderful organization, but so are all of the other organizations the Glimmer Gauntlet players are playing for. So if you make a gift today, I guarantee your money is going to a good place where it'll make a difference.
Hello, my name is Blake, and I'm playing for the Sick Kids Foundation. The Sick Kids Foundation is affiliated with the University of Toronto and is Canada's most research-intensive hospital and the largest center dedicated to improving children's health in the country. This organization is important to myself and my wife, especially. Her siblings grew up with certain medical conditions, and Sick Kids helped them a lot as they grew up, and they are the reason that they are healthy adults today. We just appreciate all that they've done for our family, and we want to continue supporting them and helping future generations overcome any illnesses that they may have to face. Donations will continue to help fund their research into all of these illnesses that they help children face, and puts more money into the programs that they.
Hello and welcome everyone to round 2 of the Glimmer Gauntlet. This is the semifinal match, number 2 between Blake of the Glimmer Gang. Did Teddy go? Okay, we're live. Okay, apologies for that. This is round 2.
Live, guys. We're
doing it live. I'm joined by Dan from Hobbies and Happiness. How are you doing, Dan?
Brandon, anytime I get to cast alongside of you, I am doing fantastic. And today is another one of those days. I'm doing great. How are you doing, buddy?
You're so sweet, dude. I'm doing awesome. I'm excited for this, even though there's been a couple technical difficulties along the way. I'm really excited about this match between Blake from the Glimmer Gang and Liam from the Illuminateers. This is a little bit of a grudge match. For anybody that doesn't know, Blake, through his rounds, actually for the last round to get here, had to battle through Aaron, the other half of the Illuminateers. So Blake had to take out Aaron to get here, and now he's facing Liam. So I'm sure Liam is, here to take revenge on Blake, and we'll see if it actually happens. I'm really excited. Blake is playing an Amethyst Emerald deck, and Liam is playing a Amethyst Steel deck. So there's a lot of Amethyst happening in this match. We knew Amethyst would end up in the finals one way or another, so it's going to happen in this one, and I'm eager to see what happens.
As am I. I think Liam's sitting over there. I will avenge my. Will avenge my wife. Thou challenger. I think that's what he's saying.
I think that's normally how Liam talks.
I think that's what's going on. So yeah, I'm excited about this match. Again, we've got the two different Amethyst decks going up against each other, with Liam's Amethyst Steel and Blake's Emerald Amethyst. I'm really interested. This is going to be the Battle of the Goats, man. It's going to be the Battle of the Goats. And will this come down to the final turn of, okay, who do you have it? Do you have it? Because that's always the question when you go up against Amethyst and Goats, isn't it? Isn't that the question, Brandon?
Oh yeah, it's always Battle of the Goats. As soon as you get to that like 15 or 16 lore count, it just gets who can draw it first, who can draw it and play it first most of the time. So I'm really excited. There's Nat is Blake's wife. She's in the chat. There's a couple people rooting for Blake in the chat too. So we've got a lot going on here. We've got a lot of people rooting for Blake. We've got Liam trying to avenge his wife. This is going to be really awesome. I want to highlight real quick. I know that on stream they were just talked about, but Blake is playing for the Sick Kids Foundation. And Liam is playing for the court-appointed special advocates of Travis County, Texas. This is a charity event. If any of you watching do not know that, you can donate in the link in the description. So check that out if you want to. So it looks like the players are getting started. I don't know if they've rolled yet. Dan, did you catch who rolled?
It looks like they rolled. I couldn't tell you who's going first here, to be honest. But I wanted to mention real quick, in these two matchups in particular, if I had to pick one, in all honesty, I'd probably go with the deck running Steel, because Liam does have access to some removal to be who can take care of the biggest threats. And in this matchup in particular, it's going to be a goat. And we see Liam inking a goat on turn 1 to play out Captain Hook, Forceful Duelist.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see the goat being inked immediately. But I kind of agree. This is like, I have no idea where this match is going to go, because Steel does have a lot of that removal available to it. I think Liam's running 4 Grab Your Swords, 3 Along Came Zeus, 3 Smashes. So like, it's definitely there. But Blake is also playing Emerald. And Emerald has a lot of like bounce shenanigans, has a lot of discard shenanigans. He's playing some Cloud Kickers. He's playing those Curse Merfolk, which we see being played on turn 1.
Probably the best turn 1 play in any Emerald deck. Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great turn 1 play, because I just said, I don't think Liam has any early removal that he can use. So Curse Merfolk is going to quest for 2, and then Liam's either going to have to respond to it and discard a card, or he's just going to have to let Curse Merfolk continuing to quest and, giving Blake that lore lead, which I really don't feel like you want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and especially seeing Curse Merfolk on turn 1 from your opponent is always a feels bad because, again, with Cursed Merfolk, the reason that I think it's such a great card, right, is it's pretty much, especially if played on turn 1, it's always going to be a 1-for-1, right? It's going to steal a card from hand when you challenge on either turn 2 or turn 3. Because again, Curse Merfolk's so much better in the early game than it is in the late game. And then we see both players play Madam Imp Snake. We see the snake. See the snake come out on turn 2 from both players.
Yeah, this is a very typical Amethyst start, and just about any Amethyst deck. You play your really strong 1-cost card, and then if you don't need to keep it on board, then you can quest with it, gain a little lore, bounce it back to hand so that you can use it later. And we see that with the Cursed Merfolk on Blake's side. I really like that because you just later you're going to be able to play it again, potentially quest for 2 lore as long as Liam doesn't have some removal for it. And at that point, Cursed Merfolk's gotten you about 4 lore for a 1-cost card. So like that's really, really good.
Right. Yeah, and now I look away for 1 minute, and then I look up, and now we see three characters on the side of Liam there. With probably in all honesty one of the best, in my estimation, one of the best 2-drops for Amethyst, and that's Blue Fairy. I absolutely love Blue Fairy. Even if you're not playing a lot of Floodborn characters, which we know Liam is in his deck, just being able to, because, Amethyst just needs help, right? Drawing cards, right?
Oh, yeah.
They just need
Amethyst,
all the help they can get to draw cards, and that's what Blue Fairy does in droves.
Yeah, I'm going to make a prediction here because I saw some spiciness happening in Liam's deck list. He's playing 4 Captain Hook Thinking Happy Thoughts, which is a shift target for Captain Hook. So I imagine we're going to see a Captain Hook shift target come down, which has a really big ability. Oh, we'll see if Blake bounces. What he decides to bounce to this may make the difference. Okay, he's going to bounce the Blue Fairy. So this is going to at least keep Liam from drawing a card if he plays the Captain Hook Thinking Happy Thoughts. But the shift Captain Hook is a really strong card, especially in this format, because it has an ability that says characters with 3 costs or less can't challenge this character. And Blake's list is very low to the ground. There's a couple 5 and 4 costs around there, but the majority of his cards in his list, and one of the bigger challenging cards, Madam M. Fox, which we've yet to see, but I'm sure we will at some point, it can't challenge. It can't challenge the Captain Hook. So that Captain Hook, if played by Liam, will give him a lot of flexibility and a lot of room to quest with it, not really worry about whether it gets challenged or not, and then leave it available to challenge all of Blake's characters if he leaves any of them exerted.
All right, so we see from Liam inking a Jafar Dreadnought to play a Merlin Rabbit. I mean, again, in Liam's deck, right? We talked about the Blue Fairy, which in all honesty is a good, it's an interesting tempo play, right? Because the previous turn you had Blake bouncing the Blue Fairy. If that Blue Fairy would have stayed on board, I would venture to guess, assuming Liam would have had another inkable card in hand, that he would have wanted to get that Jafar Dreadnought down, because Jafar Dreadnought, a pretty key draw engine for Liam. So I think the fact that Blake was able to bounce that Blue Fairy the turn previous was very good. And there you see the Captain Hook that was in Liam's hand that Blake is able to snipe with the sudden chill.
Yeah, one of the cool things about having Amethyst and Emerald, I mean, as we've mentioned already, Amethyst is just great at drawing cards.
Another Kit Cloud Kicker. Oh boy.
Another Kit Cloud Kicker to bounce back the Captain Hook that was on board. But when Liam is playing a bunch of cards that are drawing cards, and he has a lot of them. I mean, he has the Blue Fairy. We've already seen the Jafar Dreadnought. We see the Rabbit here on board. He's also running Maleficence, and he's playing Friends on the Other Side, and he's playing Queen's Castle. So he has as much draw as a man could want. In Emerald, you're able to negate that a little bit through cards like Sudden Chill, where you're essentially able to take a 1-for-1 trade where you get rid of your Sudden Chill, and then your opponent has to discard a card. So if Blake can get away with enough of these discard shenanigans, he might actually be able to keep Liam at bay and keep him from being able to create such a big lead just through draw and through the options he has in his hands, that he can take this away with some of his more aggro cards.
Oh wow! And now we just see Liam just throw out his entire hand on the table, right? Kind of like we saw a couple turns ago. But one thing that I was also just looking at, right, is this is another turn where we see Liam inking his second Merlin goat. I believe that's the second goat that we've seen him ink. Okay,
Yep.
so he now only has access to potentially 2 more goats, and by this turn in the game, who knows where they are in his deck, right? And we talked about how key of a card Merlin Goat is, particularly in the late game. But again, for any deck running Amethyst, you're okay going into the late stages of the game because you know you can draw. And one thing I'm not sure of right now is do we know how many cards Blake has in his hand? Because Blake's been able to kind of keep Liam at bay from a tempo position, but we do see both players sitting at 2 lore early in the game.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many cards are in Blake's hand, but with the amount of cards that Liam just played, he's definitely setting himself up to gain that advantage on board through tempo, because Blake can quest with his Curse Merfolk. We see him do so right here, but Curse Merfolk isn't really going to do much other than keep questing, and you hope that your opponent challenges into them. He's not going to be able to trade with anything. Okay, he is going to bounce it back and play Madam M Fox. I'm assuming this is going to go into the Rabbit. Yep, he's going to banish the Rabbit.
Take out the Rabbit
With the
Liam's
Madam
gonna
M
draw
Fox.
a card, which again, right? If I'm Liam, I'm like, that's fine because now I have 2 damage marked on the Mim, and I just drew a card, and I am now up a card. So I think Liam is okay with that transaction there.
Yeah, Blake's having to play a really difficult role in this game right now, where he knows he can't all out aggro his way to the end. He just knows that Liam's going to be able to outvalue him in that area. So he has to really play this balancing act between creating threats on board through questing like Curse Merfolk and getting value out of them, and then also still trying to save tempo on board by playing his Cloud Kickers, by playing his Madam M Foxes, and taking out some of Liam's cards. But we see Liam make a really big shift here into that Captain Hook thinking happy thoughts. It's going to be able to challenge and take out the Madam Mim if he wants to use it, and Captain Hook will keep from being banished. Oh no! Man!
Or he can just sing "Grab Your Swords." That's another thing that he can do.
Yikes! Yeah, this has to be the card that Blake is scared of the most in Liam's deck, and Liam is running 4 of them. Man, what a huge tempo shift!
Wow.
Now
We just man, dude, we talk about the tempo swings and how many of the time, and we've already seen it in this game, the tempo swings that Blake was able to utilize on his side of the board with the Cloud Kickers, just the bouncing. And then Liam says, I see what you're doing. And you know what? I'm going to take out my Captain Hook. He's going to sing "Grab Your Swords." You know what? I would sing it, right? I would sing the "Grab Your Swords," but I'll spare you from that song for the moment. And then Mr. Smee comes out. Captain Hook, Captain, I'm going to come out and save you. And man, that is just a humongous tempo swing in favor of Liam there. Wow, what a play.
Yeah, this is quite a thematic board that Liam's built here with both the Captain Hook and 2 Smees. The Blue Fairies, they are also doing some work, but we've got lots of pirates here, and specifically from Peter Pan. It's one of the things I love about this card game is you can create these stories as you're playing the game, with Smee being there next to Hook, flying around, singing "Grab Your Swords" and taking out everything that Blake has played. And I mean, I think Blake is in a really difficult spot right now. I don't think he's drawn very many cards this turn, so I think I saw he only had 2 cards in hand, whereas Liam having the Blue Fairy on board and has drawn a numerous amount of cards with the Rabbit that we saw earlier. Now he has a huge board presence, and with Steel, I mean, you just always have that ability to clear your opponent's board through actions. And so he's in a really solid spot. Blake's going to have a much tougher time doing that because I'll look at the deck list real quick. He's only running 2 Mother Knows Best, but other than that, he's not running really any cards that can deal with Liam's board without having to challenge them. And so We do see Liam bounce the Captain Hook, thinking happy thoughts for a Madam Mim Fox, and he'll replay the small Captain Hook there, and he's just going to quest out and jump from 5 to 11 that turn, I think, gaining 6
Yep.
lore in total.
Gaining a lot of lore. The only question that I would have had there is I don't know personally if I would have quested with that blue fairy, just because it looks like Liam's only sitting on 2 cards in hand. Now, granted, in the end, is that 1 lore going to matter? Because now you have put your blue fairy at risk of being banished with the Tinkerbell, because Tinkerbell does have evasive. We'll look to see, and that's what Blake does end up doing, is taking out that blue fairy, because Blake does realize how important blue fairy is to Liam in order to draw cards, because again, he does know that Liam is sitting on that Captain Hook thinking happy thoughts, and now not only is Blake able to banish the blue fairy, but we do see him play another sudden chill. But unfortunately, I don't know if that's going to be enough at this stage of the game. I think that last turn was just too much potentially for Blake to come back from, but it's still anybody's game. But that's just, again, that's just the power of, well, I mean, that Merlin Crab would have been a very interesting play, but again, it's just Liam was able to decimate Blake's side of the board a turn ago.
Yeah, one of the things we know is Liam has that other Captain Hook thinking happy thoughts in hand. It looks like he drew a Queen's Castle, so he's going to play that instead, which, I mean, this might just seal the deal, because the crab is going to be really good to be able to like trade with the Smees if it needs to, and get some lore off of the board and keep Liam from winning another turn. But man, I don't think, unless Blake has a fox that he can run into the Queen's Castle after bouncing the Merlin Crab, it's going to be really, really difficult for him to clear everything on board and actually stop Liam from winning. I mean, because he's basically exhausted Liam's hand. So if he can just get rid of everything on board, then he might be able to start catching up. But it's going to be a real feat for Blake to do so.
Yeah, and this is exactly why I talked about earlier at the beginning of this match, the power of steel. When you have access to removal, you just have so much more options available to you. If your opponent starts to overwhelm the board with characters, you're only literally 1 card away from turning the tide. And that's just the power of steel. And again, why I think Amethyst Steel is just a very, especially in a limited format such as this, just able to do so much work. And we've already seen it now in both games, how much work Grab Your Swords was able to do. And looks like we see both players shuffling it up, as Liam is going to take game number 1 in this semi-final match.
Yeah, a great job to Liam for playing as well as he did. But I agree with you. Grab Your Swords is looking to be like the MVP of today. We saw how much damage it did with Jacob's deck in the previous match against Eric's aggro deck. And although I would say that Blake's deck is leaning a bit more tempo oriented, it's still really low to the ground. And like Grab Your Swords is going to do so much damage. And especially when it's being sung by a character that also can't be challenged by characters of 3 costs or less. I mean, that makes it even stronger, because you're essentially able to sing it for free and then clean up anything afterwards. And just the removal power of steel, as you mentioned, is super strong. If I'm Blake going into this next match, the only thing that I can think of is he's running the Ursula Deceivers, right? So he can play an Ursula Deceiver well-timed and can get rid of a Grab Your Swords mainly. That would be really big. He's playing his Cloud Kickers. He's playing some discard stuff, and he's playing some bounce stuff. And I think my game plan would just be to try to disrupt Liam as much as you can. Discard cards where you can make him discard cards. Find those Ursula Deceivers, if anything, to just get rid of those Grab Your Swords. Because I feel like if Liam has a Grab Your Sword, your chance of winning the game
it goes down significantly.
Yeah,
it goes down significantly, right? And again, if I'm Blake, and we saw him do this very well in the early stages, right? His game plan is disruption and timing. Okay, he has to. I mean, Blake has to have the cards that he needs, and in all honesty, he kind of has to either hope one of 2 things: either that Liam doesn't have the Grab Your Swords, or that he's able to time his tempo plays effectively to where he can take that card from his hand. Because, like you mentioned, we've got the Ursula Deceiver. If you have Ursula Deceiver, you got to play that at the most opportune time because you want to get as much information as you possibly can at the right time, and then say, okay, now that I know what you have, ideally you want to take that card away from him the turn before he's going to play it. Like that's the most ideal time for you to play an Ursula Deceiver, in all honesty, because the worst thing you can do, in my opinion, and I've seen a lot of people do this, and it's understandable, is they curve out with Ursula Deceiver. So they play Ursula Deceiver on turn 2, but ideally, your opponent most likely is not going to be able to play that on turn 3, right? They're most likely going to be able to play that on turn 4 or 5 if they're able to get something out earlier to then sing the Grab Your Sword. So you want to time that effectively, right? And we
Yeah,
saw Blake time his plays effectively, but it's difficult to pilot. Emerald is difficult to pilot effectively, and in all honesty, we saw Blake do a phenomenal job of piloting the Emerald color on, and then we saw Grab Your Swords, and that's just what happens.
Yeah, sometimes that's just what happens. If your
Yep.
opponent has the answer and you don't have a response for it, like there's nothing you can do.
Yep.
But to highlight just how tricky this is for everybody watching, Ursula Deceiver is a 2-cost card. Blake is going to go first, which means if he plays Ursula Deceiver on 2, that's hitting Liam on Liam's turn 2, going into turn 2,
Mm-hmm.
which is really not an opportune moment. But if Liam opens with a Captain Hook or is able to play a Captain Hook, you're at that point forward, if Liam has 3 ink, you're threatening a Captain Hook sing Grab Your Sword because Captain Hook shifts for 3. So we see Captain Hook come out now. So
Yep.
even as early as turn 3, you have to be kind of concerned about, does he have the Grab Your Sword and does he have the shift? Blake can't just full blown throw everything onto the board right now out of fear of doing that. He's got to play this balancing act of bouncing cards back to his hand and making sure that he's not taking inefficient trades where he can. Okay, so we see an
And we
Ursula
talk about
Deceiver
it
come
there, right?
down.
There it is. So we
Let's
see
see.
him sitting on a friend's on the other side, which again, knowing Liam and the route that Liam has taken thus far in these games, he's probably gonna top deck another friends on the other side.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate that you don't see any removal spells, and
Yep.
like we've mentioned, a Grab Your Sword, but it is really nice to know what Liam's working with. We know he has the Jafar, we know he has the Captain Hook and a snake, and I forget what the other card was, but you know what he's working with, and at least being able to discard a song is better than discarding no songs.
Right.
So
Right.
that's really good. We see the Smee come down with Captain Hook staying there. Smee's not going to take a damage when he exerts, so Liam's going to be able to put a little bit of pressure in both directions of questing and challenging, because if Blake decides to exert any of his characters, Smee or Captain Hook actually would be able to challenge either of them and survive. But he can also just quest with Smee because Smee is a 2 lore character, which is a lot of lore, especially for a 2-drop card. And he can start getting his way slowly to 20 lore and creating a little bit of a tempo advantage that way.
Yeah, interesting that we're seeing Blake ink another Ursula Deceiver here. So, all right, so we see the Cloud Kicker come down, so bouncing the Captain Hook. Yeah, I'm very interested about the inking of that Ursula Deceiver here. Again, we do not know what Blake is sitting on in his hand. But when you see Blake ink that card, what goes through your mind, Brandon?
It makes me wonder if he has a lot of uninkables in his hand,
Mhm.
because I would try to keep the Ursula Deceiver if I could, just for the Grab Your
Right.
Sword. We talked about it this whole match, and it feels like such a key card. But I feel like Blake must be sitting on a lot of uninkables here, because he knows that as important as it is to have Ursula Deceiver available, it's also really important to continue inking and to have enough ink to play your cards. And
Right.
Blake is running a bunch of bounce cards. He's playing 4 Madam M Foxes and 4 Madam M Snakes. So as long as this Ursula survives, which is interesting that he quested with it because Smee can challenge. But if Liam decides not to challenge the Ursula, he still has the option of bouncing the Ursula back to hand and then replaying it if he wants to go that route as well. But it does look like Liam is going to challenge the Ursula, and Smee will take a damage. We'll see if a Captain Hook comes down. Oh no, he's just gonna Liam's just
he's
gonna
gonna
straight up
bounce
bounce
it.
it back to hand, take that damage off of Smee as it goes back to hand, which is very efficient, and play Madam M, which has a very similar stat. He's actually gonna ink the Smee and then play a Captain Hook as
Play the
well.
Captain
So
Hook. Okay. One thing,
that's in.
Brandon, I know you and I have talked about this quite a bit, but it's stat lines. A lot of these games have come down to like battles of stat lines, right? And the other thing that you want to pay attention to is, and we've talked about this as well, is making efficient trades, right? If you can trade, ideally you want a 1-for-1. If you can't, if 1-for-1 even better, let's do a 2-for-1. And we know that with what we saw Liam able to do there was use that Smee to remove one of Blake's cards, bounce it with the Madam Mim, and now use that card for something else. So that was a very good use of his resources on Liam's side of the board there. And you want to be as efficient with your cards as you possibly can. Because ideally, in a lot of these games, is you just want to be more efficient with your stuff than your opponent is with their stuff. That was a very good use of Liam's cards there from Liam's side of the board. But now we see Tinkerbell and the evasive threat come down on Blake's side of the board, and we'll see how Liam is able to deal with that evasive threat.
Yeah, so far Liam has been able to keep Blake at bay because of those stat lines that he has on board. Having a Captain Hook, having this Smee, and now the Snake on board, Blake knows that if he exerts anything, Liam's going to get a favorable trade. It's not going to actually banish the thing that Liam uses to challenge into his characters. So he hasn't been able to put on a ton of pressure. But having the Tinkerbell come down with evasive, Tinkerbell's going to be able to freely quest every turn if Blake has the leeway to do so, because Liam doesn't have a way to challenge the Tinkerbell or get rid of the Tinkerbell outside of an action. So he's going to be required to have an action to get rid of the Tinkerbell, which I think is good for Blake, to be able to put a little bit of pressure on Liam here. But going back to the stat lines that you were talking about, I think that's what makes these Amethyst matchups so fun to watch and so unique. Amethyst is full of value, being able to draw a bunch of cards, being able to sing cards, being able to bounce cards back to your hand. It really requires the player to know how to efficiently make trades and efficiently draw cards and gain cards and have 2-for-1s or 3-for-1s sometimes even, which is what we see Liam's been doing very well. We see he's going to sing friends on the other side. We do see a Cusco come down on board on Blake's turn last turn, which could be pretty big because Cusco has ward. So there's nothing that Liam has that he can choose Cusco to banish with.
Yep.
Even if he has a grab your swords, it's not going to take out the Cusco.
Right.
And if Liam has to challenge the Cusco to banish it, then Blake is able to banish the challenging character as well, which could be a really big swing for Blake.
Mm-hmm. And so we see the Captain Hook thinking happy thoughts come down after we see the blue fairy. So again, Liam able to start refilling his hand here. But again, I think what Blake just did on his side of the board, he's setting himself up very, very well. I mean, we see the Rafiki still sticking around from turn one. Again, Blake choosing his spots very, very carefully here. He needs to be able to effectively get the most use out of his cards and his stat lines. And so with that Cusco coming down, again, right now, there's nothing outside of the Captain Hook. Okay, nothing outside of the Captain Hook that can take out the Cusco in one swing. But again, we talked about the 1-for-1s, the 2-for-1s. Cusco at minimum will be able to 1-for-1 one of Liam's cards. And if Liam decides to challenge with the Captain Hook into the Cusco, that will effectively be a 2-for-1 kind of, but not really, if you know what I mean. So I really love seeing that Cusco on board on Blake's side of the board. And we know who else really likes to see the Cusco on Blake's side of the board, don't we, Brandon?
Oh yeah. I know that Y Breezy is probably really excited to see Cusco on Blake's side of the board. He'll be casting the finals match with me coming right after this one. But we see Blake play another Ursula Deceiver, getting a look at Liam's hand, wanting to see what he's working with. As we've talked about Grab Your Swords this whole match, he can't go too wide and he can't put too many things down with low health in case Grab Your Swords is in Liam's hand and wipes his board. So I really like the timing of this one coming down, just checking to see whether he's safe to do anything like that. These stats are really mattering. We've talked about the stats, but Rafiki's job, and the reason why Rafiki hasn't been exerting at all is because he's there to challenge. He's there to take something out. But right now, Rafiki only has Challenger +3, and there's nothing that Liam has exerted that Rafiki's going to be able to challenge all at once.
Ooh.
Unless...
Oh, there we go.
Unless a
Yeah.
Merlin Crab comes down.
There's the Merlin Crab. Love it. Giving Rafiki Challenger +6. Man, I love to see that stat line. And I knew where that was going, into that Jafar Dreadnought. That we talk about tempo swings.
Yes.
We talk about tempo swings. That is a tempo swing. If I've ever seen one with the Merlin Crab, love to see it.
Yeah, that's really great because Jafar, although Liam was able to sing Friends on the Other Side with Jafar and draw some cards, Jafar wasn't able to challenge anything on Liam's side of the board, or on Blake's side of the board and draw extra cards when banishing it. So lots of great value there for Blake, being able to use that Rafiki to, I mean, it's a 1-cost card. You're taking out a 4-cost card. It required a 3-cost card to get there, but your 3-cost card's still on the board. So effectively, that was a really good trade.
Brandon, I love the fact that Rafiki was sitting there for what, 5 turns?
Yeah,
5
at
turns,
least.
And Blake was just so effectively able to choose his spot of when to deploy the Rafiki Mystical Fighter. And boy, did he choose probably the best time to deploy that threat of Rafiki Mystical Fighter.
Yeah, we'll see if Liam decides to banish Cusco with Captain Hook. I think that'd be really great.
He kind of has to,
Blake
right?
Too. Yeah, exactly.
Kind of has to, or else, the Cusco just threatening to gain so much lore, even over the course of an additional turn.
Oh, what's he working with here? Okay, he's playing another Captain Hook.
Another one to draw, trying to get more options into his hand. Which again, that's a really good play there, because again, being able to replace itself in your hand, and again, effectively Captain Hook thinking happy thoughts, just a very good stat line, especially when you are challenging.
Yeah, and so this is a really good trade for Blake, actually, being able to take that 1-for-1, kind of a 2-for-1, like you mentioned, because the Captain Hook that we used to shift is also or shift on top of is banished as well. So really great to see. And Blake was doing a phenomenal job at just presenting threatening characters and saying, like, I know you don't want to banish this Captain Hook, and I know that card's really strong against my deck, but Cusco also has 3 lore, and there's no other way for you to banish him this turn. So if you don't banish him, I'm going to gain an extra 3 lore the next turn. And Liam said, I can't let you do that. That's too strong. And something else that's kind of cool here, the Blue Fairy is really nice because it allows Liam to draw cards when he plays shift characters. And he had a plethora of Captain Hook shift characters in hand last time we saw. But with this Tinkerbell on board, unless Liam's not running any crabs, so or Merlin Crabs. So the Blue Fairy effectively can't quest ever, because then the Tinkerbell can trade with it. So Tinkerbell is still providing that threat. We see the goat come down. We've talked a lot about goat gaining lore on play. Blake's really ramping up his tempo here. He doesn't have any cards in hand, and I'm sure he's just crossing his fingers and praying that Liam doesn't draw the Grab Your Swords.
Right. Yeah, because again, right now, I think Liam's best line, number one, just hope and pray that you don't see Grab Your Swords coming down from Liam, or that, and then also if he's able to pull, draw a card, a Madam Mim card that can bounce something. I think you have to bounce that Ursula, because you want to get as much usage of that Ursula as possible. You want to see as much information from Liam's hand as you can, and potentially pull a Grab Your Swords at the most opportune time. And the thing with Liam playing these Captain Hooks is, yes, he's able to cantrip, right? Refill in hand, replace itself in hand, right? But also he's having to spend 5 resources to do that. He's having to spend 5 ink. So again, it wouldn't be as bad if Liam didn't already have another 5-cost card on the field that he can just sing Grab Your Swords with. And that just speaks to the power of singing songs in Disney Lorcana. It's
Yes.
just it's such a great mechanic. It's on theme, but it's also kind of broken, if you know what I mean.
Oh
right?
yeah,
It's just kind of broken.
it's very broken. Being able to play a card for free, essentially, not having to spend any ink. It's very, very strong. But it's one of the reasons why Lorcana is a great game and a fun game to play. I do want to highlight real quick, though, this little 2-drop inkable 3/2 Jafar might not look like much, but I think this is actually a really big play and a tempo shift in Liam's favor, because we talked about the Tinkerbell and how the blue fairy can't really ever exert because the Tinkerbell would be able to challenge it. And so Blake's able to quest with Tinkerbell basically as much as he wants to and push him closer and closer to 20, waiting, I'm sure, to quest out with everything up to 20. That Jafar has an ability that says on Liam's turn, that Jafar gets evasive. And he has the exact perfect stat line to challenge and banish the Tinkerbell that also has evasive. So now that's no longer an option for Blake. Blake decides to challenge with the Merlin into the snake, banishing the crab to give Merlin Goat Challenger +3, which he can then use to challenge into the Captain Hook Thinking Happy Thoughts, one of the few cards in Blake's deck that he can actually use to challenge those cards and banish the Captain Hook Thinking Happy Thoughts, and keeping Merlin from being banished, which is really big. Because Merlin, he knows that if Merlin gets banished either in a challenge or through Grab Your Swords or whatever, that's just an extra lore. Yeah, he's gaining lore anyway. So why not use it to keep a little bit control of the board, remove some of Liam's board state, and keep this advantage that you've worked so hard to create for yourself.
Right. And again, I think this is just another example of, Blake piloting his color combination very effectively. We talk so much about how kind of difficult it is as an Emerald player to pilot, because again, anytime you're playing a tempo oriented deck, it can be difficult to pilot. But I think we've seen Blake just do a really, really great job of piloting to success here. And really, it's going to come down to kind of like variance. What can Liam draw on his turn? We see him exerting the 4 ink to draw a card with that Merlin Rabbit. But again, we did see that other Curse Merfolk. So I think Blake right now is just, okay, I need to end this game. He knows how important it is for him to just end the game. And right now we see Liam dig. He's digging and digging and digging. And I think he's kind of looking for that Grab Your Sword. You know what I mean, Brandon? I mean, that's kind of what we're trying to see here.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I would be doing if I was Liam, because you know that, the goat's going to gain a lore when he gets challenged with Captain Hook. After that, Liam has 6 lore on board, which means he could get up to 18 next turn. He is just shy of 20, and something like a goat really finishes the game. Like at that point, all Blake needs is a goat to get him over the edge there. And Liam knows that he's running out of time. Liam's only at 4 lore himself, so like he hasn't been able to keep up with Blake and Blake's lore advantage. And I think right now, Liam's saying, like, I just need any way to remove these cards. I need some of my removal spells, whether that's a smash, whether it's an Along Came Zeus, or a Grab Your Swords would likely be ideal. I would just be digging, just like he's doing, trying to get as far into his deck as he can and find those cards.
And I think this turn, I mean, we have to see Blake quest out with everything, I would imagine, because he has to continually pressure Liam and just say, okay, either you take care of this or I win. And that's what I think that's what we have to see from Blake's side of the board. Ideally, he quests out, he's sitting on a goat, inks another card, and then Madam M snake the goat, and that would be the game for Blake here. But I mean, what other lines are you seeing here that you can think we could potentially see from Blake, Brandon?
So one of the things I imagine Blake is considering is whether he wants to quest out. We do see him quest out all the way up to 18 because Blake effectively needs a 2 lore character after that he can play this turn. He runs a couple actions that will not be helpful in this scenario, and he even runs a couple Queen's Castles, which also would actually be a pretty bad draw at this point in the game with the amount of characters that Liam has on board,
Yep.
because he might be able to banish it before it can actually gain its lore. So I think it really comes down to, did Blake draw a 2 lore character that he thinks will be safe after the next turn? Because
And can survive grab your swords.
right. He can't
'Cause
play it and then expect to grab your swords to come, because then
Right.
it's game. But I kind of like the way Blake is going with this. Okay, we see a snake come down. What is he gonna bounce back
What is
to
he gonna
hand?
bounce? What is he gonna bounce, man? What is
He
gonna
has
bounce?
3 lore left, or sorry, 3 ink left
3
that he
ink
can play
left.
something back down if he wants to. I think, man, this is really hard because you really need to play a character this turn. Okay, he's gonna bring the kit, and he's gonna go instead to play the kit down, bounce one of Liam's characters back up so that it can't challenge, and now he effectively has 2 lore that he can quest with on board, unless Liam
What do you
has a
bounce
way
here?
to challenge it.
The Captain Hook? Yeah. That
Okay.
makes sense.
Yeah, because Captain Hook is the thing that can challenge with the most strength, and it's going to be one of the more
And it can
difficult
sing grab your
things.
swords.
Yes, yeah, that's a big one, and it can seem grab your swords. So I really like that play from Blake. We'll see what Liam draws for turn. This might
Yeah,
decide the match.
it was either that or Ursula Deceiver. I think either of them would have been a good choice. But right now, we still see Blake sitting with 2 lore unexerted on board. So Blake telling Liam, all right, man, you see my board. I'm at 18. What are you going to do to deal with all of these threats? Do you have grab your swords? Because even if he does have grab your swords, he has to pay full price for the grab your swords, and the Madam Mim snake will survive the grabbing of the swords from the mob.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's really key here, and the reason that he ended up going with this play. He knows that even if Liam does have a grab your sword and can clear board really effectively, the Madam Mim still survives. So you're likely going to be able to quest with 1 lore still next turn, getting you up to 19. And then at that point, it's just drawing a goat or drawing literally any character and hoping that they stick on the board next turn. It doesn't seem like Liam drew the grab your sword. I feel like if he did, he would have played it.
He would just snapped it.
Yeah. So Liam's really having to think here if there's any way that he can possibly stop this. He could draw a card with Blue Fairy if he plays that Captain Hook again. And then I guess you could sing Along Came Zeus if you got it. You could ink for the turn and play a smash after that too if you drew a removal spell.
What's interesting now, Brandon, is assuming because again, I think it's a pretty safe assumption that Liam does not have grab your swords, right? Is the stat lines. Look at the stat lines here. I think these are very, very much in Blake's favor, but also the challenging of the merfolk now takes a card from Brandon's hand. I talked earlier about how key Curse Merfolk was in the early stages of the game. Now it's coming into even, I don't want to say more play here, but it's just as important at this stage of the game when Blake is looking to close the game out. Taking anything away from Liam in his hand is so effective, as even in this late stage of the game. I mean, I could even argue that it's more effective now than it was on turn 1.
Oh, okay. So we
Okay.
see
So there's the Zeus.
Liam. He's singing Zeus onto the Madam Mim snake, getting rid of that, but he still has the issue where Maleficent can't banish Ursula because of those stat lines. Ursula has 3 willpower.
Yep.
Okay, so we see the fox.
But Madam Mim Fox can.
Yeah, Madam Mim Fox definitely can, getting full value out of that rabbit, singing Along Came Zeus, bouncing it back to hand, letting you draw an extra card once rabbit leaves play, and using Fox to banish the Ursula. Liam had to think long and hard about this one, but I think he found a great line,
Good line.
to at least keep himself in this game.
A very, very good line. And now Liam's sitting at a healthy 4 cards in hand at this stage of the game. But in all honesty, all Blake needs to do is, again, just goat. Draw a goat, and that's kind of it here.
Yeah.
I don't think Blake's I don't think Liam's gonna be able to do anything with this Cloud Kicker. But Blake's sitting in a very comfortable position here, because again, even if he doesn't have the goat, just needs something that's not going to be answered from Liam, because again, with sitting at 19, because we're assuming he's gonna quest here with this kit, sitting at 19, he just needs one thing to stick, and then he has this game all wrapped up. But
Yeah.
there's the 4. Do we see it?
Okay,
No. Okay.
A Tinkerbell's okay because
Tinkerbell's
it does
very
have
good here.
evasive. And Liam needs a smash or he needs an Along Came Zeus. We've definitely saw the one from last turn. I don't remember if we've seen any more this game, but a pretty okay thing to draw here for Blake. It's going to make it pretty difficult for Liam to answer again because of those stats. The 3 willpower, really like a grab your swords just doesn't do it anymore. He really needs a damage spell like Smash or Along Came Zeus. One thing. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Brandon.
I was going to say one thing that Blake could also draw in case Liam finds a way out of this turn. Not only does he have Goat, but he also has Cusco. Cusco has Ward, and it would at that point Liam would need 2 grab your swords to get rid of it, which would be very, very difficult for him to pull off. So Blake has a lot of ways that he can win this game.
And Blake is, and excuse me, Liam's digging. Liam's just digging right now. He's trying to find the smash. He's only got 3 ink unexerted. Seeing he's got no cards in hand, and looks like wow. Congratulations to Blake on that one. Looks like Blake is going to take game number 2. That was an absolute nail biter of a game. A fantastically played match from both players here. Wow. That was just going back and forth pretty much all game, but man, that was such a good match played by Blake and Liam. What do you think about that one, Brandon?
Yeah, I mean, I was at the edge of my seat, right? Like there's so many things that can go right or go wrong for either of these decks. And like there's certain pieces that they really need to find. I think both players did a phenomenal job piloting their decks, both of those games. We saw Blake use the Ursula Deceiver twice, guaranteeing that there's no grab your swords in hand, that he's able to play out his board. He was able to put down threats like Tinkerbell with evasive that he could quest over and over again. We saw Cusco get lots of value out of Captain Hook, and we saw Liam do everything he can to draw into his deck as much as he could, and also making really, really smart plays like that very last one just to keep himself into the game, bouncing the rabbit, using the rabbit to sing Along Came Zeus to get rid of the readied character. So both players are playing very well this game, and it's coming down to game 3. Whoever wins this is going to move on to the finals where they'll face Jacob playing Sapphire Steel. So this is for all the marbles. Whoever wins this is going to move on.
Yes, it is indeed, Brandon. And one thing I also wanted to mention here, there's quite a bit of talk in chat, kind of, questioning about when to quest. Why didn't player A quest at a certain point in this game? One thing that is very important, right, when you're playing Lorcana, okay, is your characters are so important, right? And any little bit of incremental lore gain you can accrue over the course of the game matters. It matters so much. And because you want to quest, right, pretty much anytime you're able to gain lore, right? But also, again, one thing that a lot of players tend to do is they're like, I don't want to quest because I'm scared that my character is going to get banished, right? And there's plenty of instances where you can gain even just 1-2 lore that if you're on turn 7, turn 8, you're like, man, I really wish I would have had that extra 1 or 2 lore right about now. And especially with these decks in particular, it can be difficult to recognize those moments when they happen. But that's why these players really, and we've seen it from both these guys. We've seen it from Blake. We've seen it from Liam, really taking the time to consider the board state. Okay. But especially when you're running up against Madam Mim Fox, who you've got characters with Rush, who they can just come down and just pretty much decimate your board. It makes those decisions that much more difficult. And we're seeing that from both of these players here.
Yeah, this is why I would say Amethyst is probably the favored ink going into this entire tournament because, as you mentioned, I mean, characters on board is so important. Your lore is how you win the game. You don't win the game by challenging, you win the game by questing. And when you're playing against Amethyst, they have Madam M. Fox and like Blake is running Crab as well. There's so many cards that each player or either player could have that sort of decimates your board if they have the answer. And so you really have to weigh the cost benefit analysis of, is this one lore for my character, worth the risk of it being banished next turn, or is it going to serve me better, like we saw in game 2, where Blake holds his Rafiki, right? And he says, like, I'm saving this Rafiki so that I can get as much value as possible from it. And he got tons of value from that Rafiki in that game. We see Blake play Rafiki here on his turn 1, Liam going first this game, playing a Captain Hook, and then a Blue Fairy. Liam setting himself up for a really strong opener if he has the shift Captain Hook. We see an Ursula Deceiver come down. Okay, this is good. You can get rid of a removal spell. We do see the Captain Hooks in hand, so I imagine we'll see that come down next turn. But getting rid of that removal spell is big, especially for Blake. You know that's one less action you'll have to worry about if you get back to a state where all you need is a character ready that you can quest with. And Liam's digging for answers, so I'm sure Blake is really happy to see that.
Yeah, and again, we saw both of those Captain Hook thinking happy thoughts in Liam's hand, which Liam's got to be feeling very, very good about right now, because those 2 cards represents 2 additional cards that he's going to be able to draw with the Blue Fairy, and with Blake not sitting on any evasive characters at the moment on board. Liam feels very, very safe with that Blue Fairy over these next couple turns, being able to potentially just draw and draw and draw into more and more answers. And what's even better is it's turn 3 and Liam has a 5-cost character out on the board, able to sing pretty much every single song in his deck. So that was a very good, the timing. We talk about the timing of Ursula Deceiver, right? Blake recognizing that Liam has a Captain Hook on board, that he can play another one and then potentially sing anything in his deck to take care of his side of the board. Really, really love to see that card from Blake's side of the board there.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I don't think Liam could have had a better opening because, I say that if he didn't have a song in hand that Blake could have discarded, that's probably the only thing that makes this opening a little bit better for him because, as you mentioned, Blake doesn't have an evasive character on board. So not only can Blue Fairy just continue to draw cards as long as Liam keeps playing Floodborn characters, but he can keep questing. And we see him doing that. He's questing. He's getting closer and closer to 20. And this is one of those matches, we saw it last game, where Blake really needs to keep Liam on the back foot in order for him to get ahead in this game. And at any point where Liam has a little bit of a lead or has something like his Captain Hook that's now threatening Grab Your Sword, it's threatening any songs that he can sing, especially with only 3 ink, there's nothing that Blake can play that can banish the Captain Hook right now because nothing's going to do damage to it that's 3 costs or less. So, like, for instance here, Blake plays the Merlin Crab that he can give something Challenger +3. He could have given Rafiki Challenger +3, but Rafiki can't challenge into Captain Hook. So Captain Hook is so safe right now and threatening a ton of options from Liam with Grab Your Swords or just being able to challenge into any exerted characters like Ursula. I'll be eager to see if Blake is holding a Merlin Fox, that he is sort of baiting Liam into challenging this Ursula with Captain Hook, that he can drop next turn. Or no, Fox doesn't do it because Fox can't challenge Hook either. Oh my goodness.
Is Captain Hook thinking happy thoughts 2 costs or less or 3 costs or less?
I believe it's 3 cost. Let me look right here. Let's see. Yeah, characters with cost 3 or less can't challenge this character.
Oh man.
So I mean, and there's 2 on board.
It's go. like that's what you. Oh man. And we've seen Blake. Excuse me. We've seen Liam just able to play all these Captain Hook thinking happy thoughts in pretty much all these games, and it's just, oh wow, it's Man, you hit the nail on the head, man. Like I really think this is such a great start, a great opening for Liam. And we talk about that incremental lore gain. Well, here it is. Here he's gonna be able to just freely quest, and really not really have to think about, well, you can't really do much to any of my things, so I'm just gonna quest and quest and quest and quest, and then yeah, just deal with it. And Blake's just in a tough spot here.
Yeah, the only thing that Blake really has in regards to options to gain a little bit of tempo back from this is something like a Cusco. He can play a Cusco again, which, would require Liam to banish it. But if Liam's far enough ahead, a Cusco may not even matter. And then the only other
Right.
thing is Mother Knows Best. You can play Mother Knows Best and at least bounce Captain Hook back to hand so that it can't sing or quest the next turn if Liam decides to play it. But I mean, having two Captain Hooks in play that can't be challenged by anything that you have, especially not the turn that it needs to be challenged. Like you can't use Madam M. Fox to rush it down or anything, is constantly threatening grab your swords. So you can't try to outrace Liam and just throw your hand onto the table and just, I mean, I guess you can, and you just have to hope he doesn't have it. But the moment he has it, he can just sing it for free with Captain Hook, very likely banish all of your characters that you just played, and then continue to build a board. This is going to be a real uphill battle for Blake, I think, if he can come back from this.
Yeah, his options are dwindling very, very quickly, and really, I think Blake's best out is to just get multiple characters on board that can quest for a lot of lore quickly. I think that's his best route to go, because then the problem is, like, that's what you have to do to slow down Liam. It's just quest out, try to get ahead, and then force Liam to now say, okay, now instead of being proactive in my lore gain, I have to now switch gears and then now react to your side of the board on what you're doing. But we see two friends on the other sides there from Blake. Not a good sign for him, as he's just digging and digging and digging. And Liam is sitting pretty well here with his three characters and just gonna quest. Maybe I'll sing a song and then just decide to decimate your board. But we'll yeah, it's like maybe I'll do it. We'll see.
I mean, we're just seeing the power of Amethyst and Steel and its combination, especially in a format like this, right? You have options to actions that can remove your opponent's characters. You have options of as much card draw as you want. This Blue Fairy is putting in a ton of work, and there's
There
the
it
grab
is.
your swords that we've been talking about, just completely wiping Blake's table. And Liam's just he's gonna keep questing. He's gonna gain a little
So
bit of lore. And
yeah,
he played a second Blue Fairy, and
second Blue
so
Fairy.
yeah, I mean,
So I
it's
think that Captain Hook was like, well, do I just? Yeah, I guess I'm just gonna decimate your board. I mean, this is what's gonna happen here. Sorry.
yeah. I don't want you to get any advantage or think that you
Yeah.
have a possibility of coming back from this. So we're just gonna stop that right now. But I mean, we see, I mentioned earlier, challenging doesn't win you games. Questing wins you games. But when you're able to keep control like Liam has, and you're able to just slowly every turn quest for one or two lore while you continue to keep your opponent on the back foot, and you're able to wipe their board, this one lore turn and two lore turn starting to turn into four lore turn with the
Starting to turn
cards
into
on
4.
board, and it very, very quickly starts snowballing. And so Blake is like seriously running out of time to find anything to catch up with. And at this point, I'm not even, oh my goodness, there's
Wow,
a
that's
third Captain Hook.
woo.
Like, I mean, Blake is going to need the exact cards drawn every turn that is going to be required, if it even is still possible for him to come back from this game at this point, I think.
Yeah, that sudden chill was huge. Being able to snipe that third Captain Hook thinking happy thoughts. Because again, that represented Liam being +1 in his hand there, drawing 2 cards off of those blue fairies. But you know what? He still top decks another cantrip, just being able to just, draw another card with that Maleficent sorceress. So his just being able to just quest for 1, quest for 2 each turn has slowly over the course of a couple turns turned into, I will casually just quest out for 4, now potentially questing out for 5 next turn, because with those captain hooks and those evasive threats of the blue fairies, Blake can't do anything to challenge into any of those characters this turn. Man, Blake just in a really, really rough spot here.
Yeah, this is where Blake's deck really starts to struggle because, as we saw in game 2, if Blake's Amethyst Emerald deck can get ahead, even by an inch, and you're able to keep a lot of tempo through bouncing things and presenting threats like Tinkerbell and Cusco on board, then it can really get away with games. But if he top decks like a Cusco here, if he top decks a Goat, if he top decks a Tinkerbell, like, they're okay, but it's really not what he needs. He needs something that he's can deal with all of these characters on board. We see him ink a Madam M Fox because it feels crazy right now,
Yeah,
but Madam M Fox can't do anything.
do
Like
anything.
it can't challenge the hooks, it can't challenge the blue fairies. So he's just inking instead and saying, whatever answer I have or whatever way I'm going to be able to get back into this game, I'm going to need as much ink as possible to do it. So I'm just going to go ahead and ink this card and hope that I, draw into the next one, because I'm sure Liam, he might challenge this Maleficent next turn in Quest for 4 lore. In that case, he'll go up to 12. Maybe he'll just go ahead and Quest for 5 and go up to 13. Queen's Castle is just another huge card for him to play while he's ahead. Locations are great at doing that. If you are ahead in any capacity, playing a location usually helps you just skyrocket even further ahead, because again, Blake doesn't have cards that can really effectively get rid of locations quickly.
Yep, I think that Queen's Castle is going to be the nail in the coffin, in all honesty, because again, I think let's assume Liam. Okay, so he doesn't quest out; he just trades Maleficent for Maleficent there, but still going to be able to quest for 4 to go to 12, and then effectively, I mean, think I don't think Blake is going to be able to deal with his Queen's Castle this turn, because I mean, let's say we see Merlin being sent into the Queen's Castle. That's only 2. That's only 2 damage coming in, and let's say we get a Madam M Fox. That's another 4. That only goes up to 6. So right now, Liam's sitting with 4, 5, 6 lore on board to potentially go up to 18 next turn. This has just been an uphill match from pretty much from turn 2. No, pretty much from the get-go, because we saw that Captain Hook forceful duelist from Liam on turn 1, and I'm pretty sure that card is still around on Liam's side of the board.
Yeah, I think the very rightmost Captain Hook is the one we saw on turn 3, still kicking. And I was about to say, even with a Merlin Crab, giving the rabbit extra strength, he can challenge and banish a Captain Hook, which might be nice.
Yeah. Okay.
It doesn't get rid of the Queen's Castle though. So slows down a little bit. This other Captain Hook on the right, he only has 1 willpower left, I believe. So Liam's likely not going to be challenging with it, and if he does, it's going to be banished. But Liam's so far ahead, I imagine he's just going to quest out. He'll be able to quest for 3 next turn. He'll get an extra 2 from the Queen's Castle, putting him up to 17, which, I mean, man, I can't think of anything that Blake would be able to draw short of a couple bounce cards and another crab, or a way to bounce crab, to get rid of this Captain Hook that would save him. Okay, we do see a bounce for
Mother Knows Best.
Mother Knows
Okay.
Best. What does he choose here? Okay, so I think this is interesting. He chooses the Captain Hook to bounce back to Liam's hand. I wonder if he considered bouncing the blue fairies, primarily because they're evasive. He doesn't have a card that can get rid of the blue fairy the turn that he plays the card, unless it's another bounce card, but he's only running 2 Mother Knows Best, so he would have to find the one other that is in his deck. And at least bouncing a blue fairy, it's coming down the next turn, but like, I don't know, it at least gets it out of board, being able to quest, and then you can potentially, if you draw a snake or a fox, you can give your rabbit some extra strength for the next turn and challenge him that Captain Hook if Liam exerts it again.
Yeah,
Um,
one of the reasons I'm not the biggest fan of that play. I'm really interested to understand what Liam, or excuse me, what Blake's thought was, or his line there. The reason I don't particularly like that is that represented two more cards that Liam was able to draw, and at this stage of the game, you just really need to limit cards in hand for your opponent. And the other thing was that we saw that Captain Hook had, what, 4 damage marked on him.
yeah,
It now comes in scot-free with nothing. And so with that rabbit on board, you would have then been able to challenge into him. Um, but interested to see what's going to happen from Blake's side. But Blake is just so far behind now with that one lore to Liam 16, and that Queen's Castle is sitting pretty sitting
yeah.
pretty good.
Yeah, he won't be able to banish the Queen's Castle this turn, just with what he has on board. Unfortunately, he did have the kit. Okay, we see him. Okay, so Blake has all of the bounce stuff that he really needs. Unfortunately, Liam, I think, has 5 or 6 ink to work with right now. So most of the stuff that Blake is bouncing, he's probably going to see played next turn, which is just one of the downfalls of the Amethyst Emerald ink pairing, is that it doesn't effectively have ways to remove cards, put them into your discard, which is what you really need. But we do see, I do like this. He's able to play the Fox, bounce the crab, give Fox Challenger
Sure.
+3,
Yep.
which is exactly as much as he needs to challenge the Queen's Castle. This was I mean, all things considered, this was a lot that Blake just did.
Blake's doing what he can right now. Blake is doing what he can. And
getting both fairies off board, and then just left with the Captain Hook. You know, I think this is about as good as Blake could be asking for right now on trying to climb his way back.
Yeah, and anytime you see Mother Knows Best in particular, it's you want to be able to capitalize on those tempo swings. And it feels okay, you know, to be able to just at least remove a threat. Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness. Oh man. I can't
talk. Oh man.
I don't even know what to say after that one, Blake. I'm sorry. I mean, you just quest with the Captain Hook and you just quest out next turn. I don't think there's anything that Blake could have with his resources currently to stop Liam from winning this next game at this point.
Yeah. Grab your swords.
Hey, Liam, can I borrow one of those real quick?
Let me see one of those cards real quick. I'm just gonna play it.
Yeah. Oh man. So we are gonna see him challenge the Captain Hook with the rabbit just to draw, see what he can find. Blake had a pretty good hand, it looks like. I don't know what all is in it, but he has quite a few cards in there.
Yeah, it's just what can you do? Like what
I
can
don't
you
know.
do now?
I
Like,
don't know.
I am racking my brain. Like there's no removal that he's sitting on that he can do. It's just, oh man. How
There's
many
no
times
way-
have we been casting a Liam game and we just go, oh yeah, okay. That's it.
Oh yeah, this is over. I mean, like I said, it's the power of Amethyst and Steel. It's just two very strong colors.
Yeah.
Having all of the draw, having the evasives with the blue fairy, being able to pair with the very strong Floodborn cards in Steel, like Captain Hook and Jafar Dreadnought, to continue to draw you cards. Then you have the very strong Steel cards that are great at challenging, great at keeping board control, and also having the song Grab Your Sword and the actions like Smash and Along Came Zeus as well to just keep yourself ahead once you get ahead. It was going to be tough for Blake, especially going second. And unfortunately, I just don't think, I think one, he didn't get a great enough opening, and Liam just got an absolutely phenomenal opening
Liam had the nuts
for his deck. Yeah.
Liam just really had the nuts. And in this game, you know, you talked about Liam going first. I don't think it would have mattered. Don't really
Probably
think it would
not.
have mattered just because of what Liam had in his opening. Those two Captain Hooks with a single blue fairy is just able to get so much value. And through the entire course of this game, and we see both players shuffling it up. Congratulations to Liam. Congratulations to Blake on a match well fought. In all honesty, kudos. Big, humongous kudos to Blake. I mean, he piloted his deck so very well, but unfortunately, it's just to me, it's the power of the colors, and we saw it fully on display. But again, I want to I'm standing up, clapping for both players. But really, congratulations, guys. Well done, Blake. I mean, you did a phenomenal job with piloting that deck as well.
Yeah, and like, what a story too, right? Blake takes out Aaron the round before this one, Liam's other half. Liam got his revenge. He avenged Aaron in this match. Liam going on to the finals. I avenge thee,
Aaron.
And hey, at the end of the day, okay, so we've got finals. Jake from Ready Set Draw playing Sapphire Steel versus Liam playing Amethyst Steel. The Glimmer guys didn't make it to the finals. At the very end, you can say it's not rigged, folks. We're here to have a true and a fun game. We will be right back with the championship match. Again, like I said, Liam versus Jacob. Dan, it was an honor. It was very fun to cast with you. Thank you. Chat, don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a little while.
Hi, my name's Jacob, and the charity I'm playing for is the American Cancer Society. The American Cancer Society is an kind of overreaching, all-around cancer support system. It uses funding from all kinds of donations to help provide screening processes on the local and state level. It helps provide lodging and extra services to help transport people to treatments if they need that. It's kind of like a national cancer awareness and cancer advocate group. When I was trying to pick a charity, of course, there's millions of charities, it seems, that all have a noble cause. But the one thing about the American Cancer Society that stuck out to me was they are the national leading cancer organization. And the personal hit for me with this charity was our crew member, Anthony, in our group at the age of like 26, was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And it came as a huge shock to him. It was at a really pivotal point in his life, like right before he was about to get married. And the screening process, they were able to catch it at a time where it was still treatable. And even though he had a hard road of recovery, he still was able to he had a vast network of support around him through family, friends, local healthcare providers and stuff to help him get that treated. But I recognize that not every single person in the world is going to have the same access to that family support network, the local hospitals, the local transportation, and the lodging for family members who maybe want to be supportive to you. So this is a chance for this organization to help advocate, support, and help provide benefits for those who are really going through a hard time. So the way I like to think about it is, and with the services this organization provides, you could be funding the actual lodging and like housing of a family while they're trying to help their loved one go through a really difficult time. Or you may be helping to provide transportation to and from a treatment facility where someone may not live locally. And we're talking sums of money that would be huge difference makers in an individual's care. So if you think about it on the individual level, it really sinks in like the impact it could have. If you would like to, please consider donating to the American Cancer Society. It would be a great benefit. We know that everyone who has worked on the Glimmer Gauntlet has this one singular goal in mind of raising this money for charity, and know that your money would be going to a really good place.
Hi, my name is Liam, and the organization that I'm playing for is Court Appointed Special Advocates, or CASA, of Travis County, Texas. In the areas that they serve, CASA programs provide support to youth in the foster care system, many of which who have suffered abuse or neglect. They do this in a variety of ways. They have a lot of different resources available, but the biggest thing that they do is provide trained volunteers to serve as advocates for those children. These are individuals who get to know the kids and then advocate for them in court. So why is this organization important to me? It's important because I've seen the work that they do. You know, I was fairly lucky growing up. I had a wonderful childhood with parents who supported me and loved me, and I didn't really want for anything. And because of that, I think I am where I am today. And the older I've gotten, the more I've realized that a lot of kids aren't that lucky. There are so many who, through no fault of their own, end up in terrible circumstances and suffer, you know, sometimes unspeakable things at a very young age. And it sets them on a very strange path in life. And many of these kids are overlooked and they end up in the foster care system. They age out sometimes. And for many kids, all it might take is one individual, one moment to really make a difference in their life. And CASA programs are out there providing those moments and providing those individuals. You know, CASA programs can do all sorts of amazing things with the money that they receive, including maybe your gift today. But the biggest thing that it allows them to do is to find and train and support the wonderful volunteers, the people who really make a difference in kids' lives every single day. Our CASA program in Travis County is doing incredible things in our community, and I'm willing to bet that out there in your community, there's a CASA program serving the kids that are in need where you are. So it's definitely something to look up. You know, CASA is a wonderful organization, but so are all of the other organizations the Glimmer Gauntlet players are playing for. So if you make a gift today, I guarantee your money is going to a good place where it'll make a difference.
Hi, my name's Jacob, and the charity I'm playing for is the American Cancer Society. The American Cancer Society is an kind of overreaching, all-around cancer support system. It uses funding from all kinds of donations to help provide screening processes on the local and state level. It helps provide lodging and extra services to help transport people to treatments if they need that. It's kind of like a national cancer awareness and cancer advocate group. When I was trying to pick a charity, of course, there's millions of charities, it seems, that all have a noble cause. But the one thing about the American Cancer Society that stuck out to me was they are the national leading cancer organization. And the personal hit for me with this charity was our crew member, Anthony, in our group at the age of like 26, was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And it came as a huge shock to him. It was at a really pivotal point in his life, like right before he was about to get married. And the screening process, they were able to catch it at a time where it was still treatable. And even though he had a hard road of recovery, he still was able to he had a vast network of support around him through family, friends, local.
Welcome back, everyone. We are here at the finale of the Glimmer Gauntlet. This is what we've been getting to. We have Jacob playing Sapphire Steel versus Liam playing Amethyst Steel. My name is Brandon, also known as B Squared, and I just have to give my condolences to my co-caster for this match. Why, Breezy? How are you doing, buddy? I know you didn't want to see
Heartbroken but excited, Brandon. I am so ready to be here. We've been waiting for the finals. The competition has been fierce. The semi-finals have been insane. And Steel's on the finals. Both participants are rocking the Steel. I mean, does that mean it's the best color? We're going to find out, but very excited to be here, man.
Yeah, I mean, we talk up Amethyst a lot in the Lorcana community about it being just the best ink overall. Even in this format, Amethyst doesn't lose a ton. For anybody that doesn't know, the Glimmer Gauntlet is a tournament where players are only allowed to play cards that are rare and lower. So they can't play super rares or legendaries. Amethyst doesn't even lose all that much. It still has the entire Merlin and Mim package, which Liam is running in his deck. But otherwise, you lose like Arthur, Yzma, Elsa, Ursula, Jafar, which like can be really strong cards, but they're not exactly deck defining or necessary to craft a good deck. But Steel is the thing that made it here all the way to the end through the gauntlet on both sides. Both players playing Grab Your Swords. I think that probably had a lot to do with it. If you haven't seen any of the previous matches, you should absolutely go back and watch them. There's a lot of aggro that got built in this tournament. And I imagine Grab Your Swords did a lot of work. But we'll go over the decks a little bit real quick while the players get ready. Jacob is running a very location control heavy deck. He has a lot of cards like Along Came Zeus, Rise of the Titans, Baboom. He's also playing McDuck Manor, Smontanuis, and the Bayou. And he's also playing John Silver to sort of tie all of that up in a nice little bow. He's playing the very popular Hiram and Popsicle draw engine. He's also playing a couple beast mirrors in there in case he runs low on cards. He has great openers with Captain Hooks and Smees, which is also cards that we see in Liam's list, which we'll get to now. Liam is playing an Amethyst Steel list that is just Amethyst Steel good stuff, right? Like it's the Madam M Foxes, it's the Madam M Snakes, the Merlin Goats, Merlin Rabbits, lots of draw. He's playing Blue Fairy, which put in a ton of work. And the last game, for anybody that might have missed that, you saw just how much work Blue Fairy did paired with the Captain Hook, Thinking Happy Thoughts, which ended up being an MVP for that match. I'll be interested to see how it does against this one, because even looking at Jacob's deck list on the other screen here for me, a lot of his control characters, at least on board, are 3 cost and lower. He has the Captain Hooks, he has the Smees, he even has Bodyguard Hercules and John Silver, but none of those can actually challenge Captain Hook, which is interesting. He is, however, running a vanilla Sapphire Maleficent, the 3/6 with 3 lore that costs 5, and he's playing the Shift Hercules, which has resist, so that might end up being a really strong card if you can get to him. He's obviously playing a bunch of removal too, so I think this is going to be a really close, really interesting, and really strong matchup between the two. What do you think?
Definitely. The deck breakdown, I mean, kind of has like the steel cores are a little different. The Liam's Captain Hook last game, I think, was just carrying the victory there, and for Jacob actually had some struggles against that Captain Hook in his earlier matchup in Emerald Steel. That Captain Hook gave him a lot of trouble moving in the earlier stages of this tournament. So he has to face it again. Will he be able to go through it? Like you said, there's a lot of low ends that usually deals damage, and now with Captain Hook in the play, not going to happen. And from last game, Liam seems to be very happy seeing Captain Hooks every single game. So chances are you're going to see that man on the board very, very soon. So I'm very excited to see it. A lot of draw engines on both ends, so they don't have to worry about it. It's just who is going to be able to maintain the board control over the stages of the match that we're going to see most of it.
Yeah, we see both players rolling to see who goes first. Liam just rolled double 6s, so it looks like he's going to end up going first. I mean, casters usually aren't supposed to be biased, right? But if you had to pick one, which one do you have winning the champion? Who's going to be crowned victorious at the end of this?
Well, Brandon, I don't know if you're familiar, but I'm an emotional man, and I am heartbroken right now, and I'm hurt. I need Jacob to avenge me and my Emperor like Liam did last round, and I just need to be avenged and see Jacob win against the man that broke my heart.
Hey, I can respect the pick. I respect a man that sticks to his love. I know you love Cusco, and Liam did Cusco dirty, so I totally understand why you're putting Jacob here to win. Just to keep things balanced, I'm going to go with Liam. We're going to see who can win. We've got the two arguably strongest ink pairings in Lorcana, by the community, but I think Jacob has a lot of really strong stuff going for him, being the slightly more control-y list than Liam's. I think Liam's would probably fall a little bit more into a mid-range role, and Jacob just having some really big characters that he can play later on in the game if he can just last that long. So I'm very excited. I think Liam's going first. It looks like they just altered their cards, and I imagine we'll get started here in just a moment.
Let's see what we got. Going first has been so important in this entire tournament.
Yeah, I think especially as Liam going first, I just mentioned, I think Jacob's a little bit more of the slightly more control-y deck. So if Liam can get a little bit ahead on Jacob, that might be good here, being able to go first. But then again, control decks sometimes like to go second, because if you go second, you're able to react to a lot of stuff.
No Captain Hook that we've seen last. That's big. That's a big deal.
Yeah, no turn 1 play is probably pretty big for Liam. That means he can't open Captain
And
Hook into
pop.
Blue Fairy into Captain Hook. We see a very typical Sapphire Steel opening here with Jacob playing Popsicle. I will note something interesting. Jacob is not running any ramp in his deck outside of Motunui. So
Mhm.
people are typically used to seeing Sapphire Steel play a Popsicle on turn 1, maybe a Smee on turn 2, and then a Fishbone Quill on turn 3 to ramp
Right.
into turn 5. That's not going to happen here because Jacob's not playing it, but Jacob does have great ways to curve out. And if he can get a Smee on board and maybe a Hercules next, or even a John Silver wouldn't be terrible.
Mhm.
He can really start to create some pressure. We see a Smee being played by
Smee.
Liam, which, I mean,
Early.
Smee's just a great card, right? He has
Yeah.
great stats, lots of
So many
lore.
captains.
Yeah, tons of captains in the deck. So Smee's likely not going to be taking damage. And questing for 2
Me and a
lore.
Smee.
We see it followed by a Smee. It's Smee versus Smee right now
The
across the
captain needs to
board.
show up on the board.
Yeah, somebody. Where's the captain? Who's got the captain?
Old Captain Mike,
Yeah.
But we're gonna ink a smash. Yeah, because once the Smee starts taking damage for free, it just doesn't. I mean, it's 3. It's still a lot of turns, but you want to see it to make sure that 2 lore, 3 bodies just on the board. That's just good stats to have very, very early on.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I like this play here from Liam being able to quest with Smee. Jacob now has to decide, am I going to lose out on the lore with my Mr. Smee and challenge Liam's Mr. Smee, trying to keep a little bit of board control and keep Liam from getting too far ahead? Or do I want to stay on par with him for lore and quest with my Smee as well? We see a
Ooh.
John Silver come down. This could be really big for Jacob, especially the more locations that he starts to play. He's playing some relatively cheap locations too. As I mentioned, Masanui and the Bayou. We're getting a read
Mhm.
here on John Silver, which says for each location you have in play, this character gains resist +1 and +1 lore. So this could really be a problem for Liam going forward if Liam's not able to find those Captain Hook thinking happy thoughts and Jacob's able to get a couple locations down, because John Silver is going to be able to basically attack Liam from 2 angles. He's going to
Right.
be able to threaten challenging Liam's characters that are exerted and not taking as much damage, so making better trades because John
Yes,
Silver will
same.
have resist, and he'll be able to attack him from a lore advantage standpoint, where if he has a bunch of locations in play, then John Silver will be able to quest for a bunch of lore and potentially race Liam to 20 before Liam can get there. But we see Liam singing Friends on the Other Side, just filling his hand a little bit, giving himself some options with Maleficent. He inks a goat, which I think
Yes, the
is
goat
interesting.
taps the 4. And we now have another Smee, and see, there's a little bit of thinking here. And the other 2 drop, I'm assuming, trying to get the hook to kind of start dealing damage. 2 hooks, okay.
Dang. Okay.
That's a big board.
That is. Liam's opting to go really wide here. I talked last game a lot about how strong Grab Your Swords are. There is. Both players are playing Grab Your Sword. Jacob is playing 3 copies of Grab Your Sword. Liam's playing 4. And Liam's saying, look, I don't like this opening from Jacob. I need to really start putting some pressure
Yeah.
on and forcing Jacob to respond to me. So we're just going to go wide. We're going to put the captains down so Smee's not taking any extra damage and he has to. And we're going to turn things sideways.
And without like the ramp package, getting to 5 is going to be a little bit problematic too. So Grab Your Sword needs to come in, because if not, Liam's going to run away with this. John Silver might be able to catch up a little bit, but it won't be enough if Jacob can't answer. Another Popsicle, trying to dig down even. But it's going to be a tough situation to get out of if Jacob can't come up with an answer. But another Smee to kind of catch up the lore per turn, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, Jacob's doing a really good job at developing a board right now that can trade pretty good with everything here. I think if you're Liam, you're really happy that you're not seeing any locations, because now, for instance, John Silver can't challenge Mr. Smee and still survive. So if he wants to use John Silver to, say, get rid of the Maleficent, he would still take a bunch of damage. But Jacob is just opting to quest out. He's going to quest for an extra 2, go up to 4.
Gotta catch up.
And it looks like they're both kind of bracing each other, which I think is interesting. It makes me wonder if Jacob does have a grab your sword in hand because he has 4 ink currently, so he should be able to get to 5 next turn. And he might be telling himself, if I can just last one more turn, then I can
We're gonna be
cast
good.
this grab your sword, do tons of damage to Liam's board, and I'll have a huge board advantage to respond with.
Yeah, yeah. Betting on the grab your sword is definitely his only option because without it, there's not much that he can take on without gaining a huge disadvantage with trading. And yeah, there's just gonna be a little bit problematic if grab your sword isn't in hand. And as any steel player, it's always in the hand, though. Am I right? Like it's just one of those things where you gotta assume it's always in the hand because if not, you're gonna get got, and it's just you don't want to overextend if it's on the hand. But sometimes you do have to overextend to really be like, hey, I'm gonna be in control of this race. You got nothing to really stop me unless it's that card. So that's a heavy bet, but if you do hit it, you're gonna win the game.
It definitely would make a big difference in this game, especially because Liam's been putting so much pressure on. He's already up to 9 lore, and he has 5, 6, 7 lore on board just right
Yeah,
now. And so he knows that if Jacob has to trade with him, he's still going to be ahead in board
we got the
presence.
manner.
So we do see the manner come down. That's going to give John Silver an extra resist and an extra lore, which means now John Silver can trade into stuff and not
Worry
be
about it.
banished from it. So we see him challenge into the Mr. Smee. This is great.
And then you can heal.
Yeah, and he'll be able to heal with the popsicle, so he can do a lot of work there as well. He's gonna decide to, looks like,
Probably
quest with Mr. Smee, or is he gonna trade?
Just thinking. Do you think trading here's? Oh no, just got a quest. Yeah.
Okay, he's just gonna quest. He's trying to keep up with Liam and his lore lead. Liam all the way up at 9. Jacob saying, I don't want to fall too far behind, so he's going up to 6. And then we're gonna see what Liam has in store for Jacob here on this next turn. We're getting to, I think, pivotal points in this match where we're starting to enter the mid game, getting closer to the late game. And as soon as one player can get any advantage on the other, it might be just enough to run away with the game.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that passive lore with locations gonna come in handy? Because a lot we saw in the semifinals, the 3 Matanuas that really got that John Silver active and going. I would think Jacob's really looking for those locations, but do you think it's gonna come in handy, or do you think he's just gonna ink those away right now?
I think it definitely will. You know, Jake, it's a great question. Jacob has a deck that focuses more on control than it does Liam's deck. So I
Mm-hmm.
think if you're Jacob, you can assume that you're going to be on the back foot for some of these games, trying to just keep Liam's characters at bay. And so,
Right.
with such a large willpower location like McDuck Manor, having 9 willpower and then having 2 lore that it's gaining passively, it
Mm-hmm.
allows you a little bit of space to not quest with your characters during your turn and focus more on challenging, because you know that as long as you keep your opponent's board clear, that location's not going anywhere. So you're going to be able to
Right.
keep gaining, excuse me, you're going to be able to keep gaining lore passively.
Mm-hmm. And that way, like you don't have to worry about. Just you can challenge things away to clear out the board. So he has been very reliant on those locations, but with this board state, you gotta pray for that grab your sword, but because you can't challenge that Captain Hook. Jacob's arsenal has very limited high end high ink cards that could challenge him. So that might come in very problematic if he doesn't do something about it fast, because that Challenger 3 with Captain Hook is really, really scary. And it has been carrying Liam so far in this semifinals and finals.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think for a card that doesn't see much play at all in constructed, Captain Hook Thinking Happy Thoughts is shining very brightly in this format. I
Mm-hmm.
think that was a huge play by Liam, being able to play the Captain Hook and challenge into the John Silver and not having
Go.
Captain Hook banished, because now
No.
you're losing out on all that resist and all that extra lore from the location
Right.
McDuck Manor being played. But we do see a really great response from Jacob playing a Let It Go, saying, I've seen how good those Captain Hooks are. I don't
I'm
want
not
them
dealing with it.
anywhere near this. Yeah,
Get it
you're
out of
putting
here.
that, get it out of here, put it in
It's
your
2 ink,
inkwell.
but still, get it
Yeah,
out.
but still, you're totally fine with trying to control Liam's board, which surprisingly, Jacob's really been aggressive in his questing, going up to 10 now, where Liam's at 13, and Liam has
Backing up.
5 on board. So Liam can go up to 18 this turn.
Ooh, that's a
Which
territory
means,
you
I
never
mean,
want to be in.
yeah, especially against Amethyst. We know he's playing Merlin Goats. Once you get to those sort of numbers, a
Scary.
single Merlin Goat can just finish the game out. So I'm pretty surprised to see Jacob quest with the Mr. Smee instead of making some trades on his own. But we'll see if it works out for him in the end.
You have to. There's still a lot of. The problem is there's a lot of cards in Liam's hand as well. So he has a lot of answers. He's been drawing a lot of cards, which is what his deck has been doing so consistently. We were talking about how like we always complain about like Amethyst always sees the same cards. Well, it's because they're drawing like 30 cards,
A
right?
ton. Yeah.
It's just the good cards are gonna show up when you have so much draw power, and it's been like this. For him in the semis, finals, and the first 2 rounds.
Yeah, it's been pretty unfortunate for Jacob. He wasn't able to find the Hiram, at least he hasn't found it yet, to start giving him that draw engine. He doesn't even have a Beast Smear, at least not in play. He was able to find 2 Popsicles, which is nice. You've drawn 2 cards, but it's certainly nothing compared to the 2 Rabbits, Blue Fairy, and Maleficent
Yeah.
that Liam's been able to play to just really churn through his deck and keep his hand healthy, because Jacob really needs to be able to respond to Liam's board
There
in
you
many
go.
ways.
It's a little late.
Speaking of the guy, there he is. Hiram coming down, drawing 2 cards, trying to dig for anything to help, because Jacob's going to
It's
have to do
game.
a miracle, to get rid of this board. I don't even think it's possible at this point.
Let's see. He's thinking that you have to give it a shot at least. You have to do that math before you do. But that's a tough board to get rid of. And at 14, it passes the turn, and I believe that's game 1. Wow.
That is game 1 going to Liam, the Amethyst Steel player. I mean, just highlighting how strong those 2 inks are. He got tons of card advantage. Having those Smees early to quest for a ton of lore, I think really helped him there to push the envelope. He knows that Jacob has ways to respond, and he said, I'm going to have to race my way to 20. I am not the control deck in this matchup. And he did exactly that. He was able to go super wide. Jacob unfortunately wasn't able to find the answers to punish him, so we're going to go into game 2, and I imagine Jacob's going to choose to go first on this one.
Definitely. Yeah, you do want in that matchup. You just want to see your 1 drop on the board, whether that be Popsicle or Captain Hook on both ends. So it's just, you need to see those. You want to go first and hope that you can outrace them with your locations and your John Silver that hopefully gets online with multiple locations. I think that could have been a highlight there, but we didn't see enough draw power in the Sapphire, and hopefully he can outrace on game 2. But I'm
Absolutely. I want to go ahead and highlight and remind everybody that this is a charity tournament. All of the players here are playing for the charities that they chose going into the Glimmer Gauntlet, and we're going to highlight those now. Jacob is playing for the American Cancer Society, and Liam is playing for the Court-Appointed Special Advocates of Travis County, Texas. If anybody watching would like to donate to the Glimmer Gauntlet, all of the proceeds are going to the charity that the winner chose. So it'll either be one of those 2, American Cancer Society or Court-Appointed Special Advocates. So if you would like to donate, the link is in the description and you can donate there. If not, any support is absolutely appreciated. Just sharing the stream, tweeting about it, getting people in here and letting people know that this is happening. Everybody involved has done an awesome job in doing so. But with that said, we're going to be going into round 2. Sorry, not round 2, game 2 with Liam and Jacob. I think if I'm Jacob here and going first, like you said, you want to get those 1 drops down. I think I'd be happy with a Popsicle or a Captain Hook. A Captain Hook.
You want to see a body. I think in this matchup, as much as Popsicle is sweet, no pun intended there, but so I do genuinely think seeing a body here is good, because we saw what happens in game 1 where he went too wide and there was nothing to keep up.
Yeah, exactly. I think seeing a Captain Hook would be slightly better just because it allows you to respond to anything that Liam decides to play. The fortunate thing about going first, though, is it does open you up to playing a Smee on turn 2 if you're able to draw one of those, and then you can still respond with Smee even if Liam manages to play a 1-drop and quest out with it. But looking at Liam's deck list, he's only running Captain Hooks as his 1-drops. Those are the only
Yeah.
1-drops that he's running. So there may not, I mean, like, depending on how favored or poorly his altar goes, he may not be able to, he may not even find a 1-drop, and not having a 1-drop when on the draw might be really
Problematic.
difficult. Yeah, it might be really problematic, especially because, we saw how much work those Smees did for Liam. Jacob's running them too. So, like, if he can put a couple Smees on board, he might be doing pretty well, be able to quest for a ton. We know he's also playing the Captain Hooks, and he's also playing the Hercules Bodyguard. So if you can go kind of wide, get yourself a couple characters on on board with a bunch of lore, and then throw down a few bodyguards, you can keep them safe and really disrupt what Liam was planning to do in regards to challenges. It looks like both players have finished their altar, and we're going into game 2, starting with Jacob inking a Maleficent and playing a Bayou. Okay,
There
as a
we
location.
go.
Bayou says that when a character is at this location and it quests, you can draw a card and then discard a card. It also has 1 lore, only 3 willpower, but that's pretty okay because you're
fine.
guaranteed 1 lore next turn, and
that's all you want.
And that's all you care about. And it also is going to slow Liam down if he decides to challenge with it. Like, let's say Liam plays a Captain Hook this turn, and then next turn decides to challenge the location. That's an extra turn that he's not.
No turn 1 though. That's a big deal.
That is
Now,
that is very
2
big
lore
for Liam
with the
Yeah, that's
Bayou.
at least 2 lore that the Bayou's going to get. This is where locations really start to shine, and Jacob really built his deck around them. He's playing 3 Bayou, 3 Montanui, 4 McDuck Manor. If you can get any sort of lead with these locations, they just start to run away with the game unless they're not answered very quickly.
And
That's exactly what we see.
Wow.
Smee coming down, very strong opening from Jacob as well. He's getting a lot of lore pretty early.
And that's exactly what he wants to do. That's exactly where you want to be. You don't want Liam to control the game by being ahead, because Jacob doesn't want to answer the board. He wants to make sure that he's getting responded to.
Right. If you're challenging or you're having to respond all game, I mean, that's not going to win you the game unless you can finally catch up and take the driver's seat. So Liam definitely doesn't want to be on the back foot here. We do see the Jafar being played over the Smee, which I think is interesting. It makes me wonder if Liam doesn't have any captains in hand, which is maybe why he decided to play the Jafar instead of the Smee, because they're both 2 costs, except Smee just has overall better stats. Smee is a 3/3 with 2 lore.
There we go.
With 1 lore.
The other location has entered the board.
We see Montanui come down on Jacob. It's just going to be another thing that Liam is going to have to answer. Or I guess Liam might be setting up for a Jafar Dreadnought shift next turn, potentially. He could challenge into the Smee, draw a card, and the Jafar Dreadnought would not be banished that turn. So I'll be interested to see if we see that this turn.
That might be the investment choice there, but is that too much to just deal with 1 singular Smee, though?
It might be. I don't know, because if you just play the Smee, you know that the Smee gets banished by the other Smee if you challenge it.
Right.
Both of the Jafars can challenge into the locations and survive, so can the Mr. Smee. But if you do get the shift off, you can challenge Mr. Smee, you can survive, and then you also have 3 strength that you can challenge the Bayou the next turn and start slowly getting away from these you can slow Jacob down by getting rid of these locations. So I think this is a pretty strong play. It pulls back a little bit of tempo for Liam. Not only is he getting rid of Jacob's Smee that was on board, he also drew a card, and he's setting himself up next turn to get rid of one of Jacob's locations as well.
That's true. Then now, you're definitely right. You get sort of 2 items rather than 1. So at first it might not look as good, but yeah, you're definitely right there. Unless you can deal 1 damage somehow, but I don't think there's much choice option there for Jacob to do that extra 1 ping. So it's definitely killing 2 items, and that's all you want to do, right? You want to make sure that board is controlled.
Yeah, if Liam can catch up here by getting rid of some of these locations that are giving Jacob a little bit of an edge and start playing a little bit more towards the board, get a couple characters down, I think Liam is going to start feeling a little bit better about this game too. Jacob's struggling a little bit on what he wants to play. I think he has 4 cards in hand and he has 5 ink to work with. He doesn't have any, or so sorry. He's running 2 Baboom. So which they
Baboom will do.
Yeah, but Boom would do ready, set, draw, was able to reveal the card. I know
Oh,
it's near and dear. We see a Hiram come down though with no item.
no
You don't love
items.
to see that.
Oh,
Oh,
well,
it
there was the
hates an
item.
item.
I'm assuming that's a
Okay.
pops. Oh no, we just move it to the location. Okay.
Okay. So I think he's setting himself up to challenge the Jafar Dreadnought next turn with the Hiram potentially.
Most
Like we
likely.
mentioned, Jafar only has 1 willpower left. Hiram has exactly 1 strength. And by moving Hiram to Montanui, that means if Hiram gets banished, I believe it's in a challenge.
Maleficent
No,
Encounter.
it's just challenged in general.
Hmm.
Then that character goes into the inkwell. So
Yeah.
he'll be able to challenge Jafar, banish Jafar if Liam decides to exert Jafar. And then if Hiram is challenged back, then that's a little bit of ramp that Jacob has available to him. But we do see the Maleficent come down and draw an extra card. Liam's hand looks massive right now
Yeah.
compared to Jacob's.
Yeah. Even though this board looks, it's kind of even board, but the hand advantage that Liam has is very, very scary for a deck that's gonna really start picking up around turn 5 to 7. There's like 6 cards I believe in hand, and that's a lot of weapons to deal a lot of damage and get ahead in the lore count. Because 7-0 is not too bad right now for the situation that Liam is in. So with a lot of answers in his hand, I definitely think uh, Jacob might be in a little bit of trouble here with only having 2 other cards in hand.
Yeah, we see him play a McDuck Manor, which is a pretty big card, right? We talked about it
Yeah,
earlier. It has 9 willpower and it's going to get
quite a
2
lot to deal.
lore every turn, but it's
Oh,
okay. This is interesting. We're seeing Along Came Zeus on the Jafar Dreadnought. I mean, I feel like you got to feel kind of bad
that's a
doing
lot
that if
of
you're,
value
yeah, that's so
that's
much
just
value
gone.
just to deal 1 damage to Jafar.
Hmm.
Um, I imagine he, instead of challenging Jafar with Hiram, he was probably scared of Liam playing something like a Fox next turn that, can
Will
bounce
heal.
something back and then challenge the Hiram and end up banishing the Hiram. And as we were talking
Mm,
about earlier, I mean, the hand advantage is huge. And I think Jacob realizes that if he's going to stay in this game, he really needs Hiram to draw him some cards after he's drawn an item or 2 that Hiram can
yeah,
banish and draw 2 cards. So that line is still open to Liam actually if he decides to challenge with the Maleficent and then bounce Maleficent and challenge with the Madam M Fox if he has
Fox.
it.
Hmm.
But it at least gets rid of the Dreadnought. And mentioning earlier, this is again where locations come in play and why they're important. If Liam spends his turn doing that, trying to get rid of the Hiram, then the locations aren't dealt with and they're going to continue to gain lore passively. But looking at Jacob's deck list, he doesn't have anything that I think Liam can't answer in some form or another. Even with the McDuck Manors, you have characters like Captain Hook, Thinking Happy Thoughts, that can challenge for a lot of strength. Liam's also running Rise of the Titans, which can deal damage to some of these locations. And, he has a huge hand. So if Liam's able to respond in any capacity to Jacob and slow him down just a little bit, he may have all the tools needed to start
Catch
taking this
up.
game back. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of answers in hand. There's a lot of opportunities. Um, and if and those locations, they are great in the sense of now we're gonna get to 11. Oh, that's exactly what he's doing. He's dealing with the Flaversham right like you said he would. Now there's only locations he has to deal with, and there's only 1 card in hand. So if the locations go away in the next 2 turns, there's not a lot that Jacob can do other than hope that the top deck gives him more opportunities to get more cards.
Yeah, I think Jacob's a little bit concerned at this point because although you do have those locations and although McDuck Manor, it has a lot of willpower. So even with what Liam has on board right now, Liam can't banish McDuck Manor next turn just with what's on board. I don't think it's going to gain so much lore that
Right.
Jacob is going
Oh
to win
wow.
before Liam can catch up. A big hurt is really
That's a
good.
big shift. Okay, that's a
Yeah.
huge addition on there. Wow.
Yeah, Hercules is a great card to come down. It's a very resilient card. It only has 3 willpower, but it does have 2 resist, which
That's
means
such
that,
a big number.
yeah, all the damage that it takes is going to be discounted by 2, basically, the 2 less damage. And so Hercules not only quests for a lot of lore, he hits back really hard with 6 strength, and he's super resilient. So we see Jacob play the Hercules, move him to Motunui. So if Hercules does get banished, then he just goes right into the Inkwell. I will say, if Liam has an Along Came Zeus, that would take care of the Hercules pretty
Immediately.
quickly. Yeah, which is pretty thematic if you think about it. Kind of sad to think of Zeus striking down his son.
I had to do it. Bang. Just yeah, that would be a great answer, but a smash to deal just 1 damage is definitely well, that it then threatens Fox next turn, so that's always a good option. But it's still, I think, a lot of value that Hercules just absorbed by taking 1 damage.
Yeah, it makes that smash feel much worse, right? Liam spent 3 ink just to deal
to 1
1
damage.
Like that feels horrible. And Liam can't take care of Hercules yet because Hercules just isn't exerted. We see Liam exert his cards. I wonder if he's going to quest or challenge. Looks like he's going to challenge the McDuck Manor.
To do. Oh, okay. Yeah, we're getting rid of
Ooh.
it. That's a big play.
Okay, this is big. I casted a game that Adara played in. She was playing Amethyst Ruby, and she found a hand where she had 2 foxes, and she just kept playing a fox, challenging something, then playing a fox, bouncing the fox, challenging something. And so now that this is available to Liam, the locations become much less threatening, especially since Liam has 6 ink.
Oh, what do we top deck here?
At the very minimum.
Oh, never mind.
Okay, never mind. Forget it. He said,
gone.
Fox is gone. He said, I know how strong this can be. I just saw you put a fox back in hand. I don't want you doing funny fox loop shenanigans. I like to keep my characters and my locations. We're going to put that thing in the Inkwell where it will never be seen again.
Get rid of the board. Empty slate. Wow, what a nice top deck there. Oh my, that is the perfect answer to that headache that could have been with the bouncing foxes there.
Yeah, this definitely puts Jacob in a favorable position, completely getting rid of Liam's board. He has those locations that are still ticking away. He knows that Hercules should be able to quest for next turn as well. He's sitting pretty okay with 11 lore total, and Liam's still at 0 lore. We're at turn like 7 or something right now.
He's been dealing with everything. Just can't do the thing you need to play and win the game with. It's such a problem. Jacob has been putting problematic cards every single turn, dealing with Liam's cards at the same time with the top deck we just saw, which is the perfect top deck that Jacob could have asked for.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's pretty rare where we see Amethyst struggling, right? But like that's what's happening right now. Jacob's able to play these really high willpower and really difficult to get rid of characters. We see the fox come down, which will
2
take
foxes gone is a great sign, though.
Yeah, you know that's less cards that Liam's going to have to respond with. And actually, looking at the deck list, I just noticed Liam only plays 3 foxes. So that's 2 out of 3 foxes down. So like the likelihood that Liam has another is pretty low, and Jacob knows that now.
All right, we're just top deck gaming right now. Yeah. All right, moving it to the location just in case to get an extra ink. Why not? Even though like at this point we don't need it.
Yeah, Jacob's just kind of in top deck mode right now. Whatever he draws, he's going to play. He's got plenty of ink for it. And I think he's just going to continue to crawl his way up to 20 if he can. He's at 12, which I don't know. Like, is it close enough, Breezy? Like, is it close enough?
That's the big problem with Amethyst. Amethyst can just pick up speed. I mean, how many games you sat down, got to 19 against any Amethyst Ruby deck and just lost somehow? Too many for me. So it's just one of those things you can't count these Amethyst decks out, and that's why they've been so powerful throughout this tournament.
One of the things that I want to highlight, because I totally agree, I think Amethyst and Steel, more than any color, and we'll see it just here, this is what I was just about to talk about, has the ability to catch up through both their cards like Madam M. Fox and their actions like Grab Your Sword, Smash, and Along Came Zeus that Liam is playing. You also have songs like Friends on the Other Side that can draw you more cards, get you some tempo. But so far in this game, Liam has played 2 Along Came Zeus and 1 Smash, and he's played or gotten rid of 2 Madam M. Foxes. He only plays 3 Foxes. He only plays 3 Along Came Zeus, and he
Oh
only
my
plays
god, the
Ashes.
top deck of dreams.
We see another Hercules come down with Resist, and
Wow.
I feel like Liam's got to be running out of answers here. He is just running through all of the answers that he needs, right? Like
This
these
is
high
all heart of the
damage.
cards right now. This has been crazy. His last top 3 decks has been Hercules, Let It Go, and none of the Hercules. And Liam has been trying to answer all these cards, but he's just getting the cards he's looking for. He's answering from the deck right now. He's playing through the heart of the cards. It's been crazy.
We see Liam digging here, singing Friends on the Other Side with Maleficent. A combo tale as old as time.
Ah,
am I
Since
right,
day
Breezy?
one. Day
Since
one.
day one.
Best combo. Best combination we've seen. Best turn 3, turn 4 for the beginning of time. It's been crazy. It doesn't go away. It will never go away. Why would it go away?
Yeah, I mean, I think Liam knows what he has to do here. He says,
Keep
I have
digging.
got to gain control of this game before it continues to get out of hand. So we're going to just dig and dig and dig. Singing Friends, playing Rabbit, drawing 3 cards total this turn. We're going to bounce
Oh,
Rabbit and draw
wow.
4. Why not?
What a play. The card advantage here is kind of unfair at this point with like 7 cards I believe in hand to none. And that's kind of been the big factor playing into this game, even though there's a huge lore lead. Jacob's kind of out of things to do other than hope he gets good card, while Liam has options, opportunities that he can take advantage of.
Yeah, Jacob is literally just playing the top deck game. We'll see what he draws here. What is it?
Grab your sword would make me cry here.
5.
Oh,
my gosh. Oh
that
my
is
gosh.
also a
That's
big
huge.
problem. Wow.
That is huge. Because I was going to say, Liam has built a really big board, specifically of challengers, right? With Captain Hook. The super unfortunate thing is, even though all of the characters on Liam's side of his board, other than Maleficent, has 3 strength, they're only dealing 1 measly damage to Hercules with Resist. So Liam's going to have to
He's digging for a big Captain Hook. He's digging for a Captain Hook.
A big
That's his
Captain Hook
answer.
would be huge here, and Along Came Zeus would be really big here as well.
Both big answers. Does he have it though? That's the big question. You have to keep digging for it though. If I was Liam, I'm looking for get rid of that Hercules this turn without getting rid of every single Captain Hook I have.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if Liam can do that, he's setting himself up to come back, because then you have a huge board that can very easily deal with Maleficent pretty efficiently. So if he finds a way to get rid of this Hercules very efficiently, we see a lot of ink. Oh, does he have it?
He has to. Oh no.
Okay, no, he's just playing a small Jafar.
Yeah, you
Unfortunately,
have to
that's
get
not
rid.
going to do it.
Hercules needs to go. There's no other option.
It feels horrible, but yeah, I think you just have to swing all 3 Captain Hooks into this Hercules and challenge
Or the
it.
snake or something. But yeah, that's so much value that just Hercules gets with that resist too.
Yeah, I mean, like, people who
Yeah,
play
exactly.
the most efficient with their cards usually end up winning, right? And
Mm-hmm.
Hercules just took a 3-for-1 trade while gaining extra lore. Like, that is huge. That is
so
huge.
much value.
We talk about how big Liam's hand is compared to Jacob's.
But that's 3 cards gone.
No hand. Yeah, that's 3 cards that Liam has had to use just to get rid of Jacob's Hercules. But we are going to see Liam finally getting on the board with 1 lore. And I mean, Jacob is just so close. He's at 15. He'll be able to go up to 18
decks
next
are so
turn.
important here.
Yeah, and Liam should be able to pretty easily deal with this Maleficent, but the top deck is going to be huge.
Oh wow!
Oh my goodness!
That is the
biggest.
biggest.
Oh my goodness! That's a huge top deck. I have to look. Liam's not running Rise of the Titans, so he will purely have to get rid of McDuck Manor through something like an Along Came Zeus. We know that 2 Along Came Zeus are already in the discard. He's only playing 3, so he has to find this final one. Otherwise, he can't take out both the Maleficent and the McDuck Manor this turn without maybe some foxes happening. But we also know
those are gone too.
Yeah, he's played 2 foxes out of the 3 that he has.
Oh my god!
He could shift to Jafar and deal. Well, no, that's still the same amount of damage. Oh man, this might be game. That might have sealed it.
Jafar. I mean, you get to draw a card. I think you just gotta keep looking for an extra card here.
Let's see.
I don't think that is.
Liam's thinking, he's
see.
trying to find a line if there is one, trying to figure out what he has to do to at least stay in this game. This is the other difficult thing for Liam too. If he manages to make his way through this turn, I mean, Jacob can just draw another 2 lore thing
Guy,
and play
yeah.
it, and then Liam has to respond again.
Yeah, this is gonna be really, really tough. Let's see. We're tapping. Okay, we're inking. We're just gotta. Okay, keep drawing.
Playing Merlin, draw an extra card. See if you can find your answers.
What is the answer here? Mim, no. All right.
We're gonna shift the Jafar, draw from Blue Fairy.
What are we looking for, you think?
This way, so at least if you find an Along Came Zeus, Jafar can sing it now that you've
Right.
shifted him, because nothing else could sing it for that turn. Because Liam's low on ink now; he only has 2 ink to work with.
We're inking the hook. All right,
So he
tap
has 3
the.
ink. See a smash.
Oh wow!
Now,
Okay. Smash will
Smash
do.
is pretty good. Smash will do. We're gonna use Smash
Oh.
to get rid of the Maleficent,
Don't-
deal 3, draw the Jafar, but I still
I
don't
don't think
think
that's
he has
enough.
enough. He doesn't have enough strength on board to deal with him at Duck
Ah.
Manor.
No
I think he's just gonna
option.
quest out.
And that's Wow.
Okay, now he's putting
All the
putting
damage.
as much damage as he can.
Nope. One too short. Just one too short. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And Liam. Oh, we're going to game 3, baby.
Finals game 3. Oh my goodness. First
couldn't-
ever.
You couldn't
Flip.
ask for a better finals match. Going to game 3, Jacob was able to pull it
Oh.
out.
Wow. Those locations came in clutch in game 2, that's for sure. Wow.
Yeah.
What a way to end the game. Heart of the cards from Jacob over and over again, by the way. Ever since he was top decking from the beginning, he top decked a Hercules, Let It Go, Hercules, Duck Manor, all the answers he could look for, everything he needed, it showed up, and that's just magical. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, Jacob found exactly what he needed. Those Hercules came in very, very clutch because it was so difficult for Liam to respond with it. I mean, Liam went through a lot of his answers. We talked about how many Foxes and how many Along Came Zeuses he went through that game, along with the Smashes. He didn't find, at least I don't think he found, a Captain Hook Thinking Happy Thoughts, which makes me wonder if that would have helped a little bit, being able to challenge for 5. You know, that's a lot of damage that you can put onto a location if that's available to you. But Jacob found his way to 20. He put the pressure on, and Liam
Kept
just
doing
couldn't
it.
keep up.
Yeah, there was so much value that Liam had at one point, but just the responses wasn't there, so it just couldn't get the value it should have been if he was on the ahead side. But when you have to answer those big problematic big bodies, going wide doesn't really do much when you have like 2 Hercules coming at you, a Maleficent that he also top deck that just couldn't have been at a better time. So it's just all those opportunities just kind of came in, and Liam answered fantastically every time, but Jacob just found a better option again.
Yeah, I mean, Liam did everything that he could, right? I think he played very, very smart.
Yeah.
He just used the resources that were given to him, and unfortunately, it wasn't enough. Jacob was able to top deck some really strong cards. And I mean, that was without Jacob's draw engine, right? He played
We did
one
see it.
Hiram that game, I think.
Yeah.
And then I think he might have played a popsicle or 2. I don't even remember.
I don't think he saw
But
Popsicle at all.
yeah, but like, I mean, Jacob was still able to pull it through. I imagine that Liam is going to go first this next game, and we'll see if Liam can get the advantage that he was able to get during the first game, going first, starting strong, and putting Jacob on the back foot. And I wonder if Jacob's going to play this game 3 any different than he played the first one. If he's going to try to race Liam to 20 and put down his locations and try to get there before Liam can, or if he's going to say, you know what, I think I have some tools that I can control Liam with a little bit,
Mhm.
and we're going to try to control Liam, put some locations on board, and let them start passively gaining lore so that once I finally get control, I can take the win.
I think so too. I think you got to learn from what you did from game 2 in the sense of when you had advantage, knew what to do. Now he just has to figure out how to get there as early as possible, where the advantage is his. Um, and I I I think locations showed out to be the reason why he won that game too. A lot of those passive lures that we talked about throughout this really showed out that game. He I believe he got like I want to say like 9-ish lore just from locations, and that's half the game right there. And if you don't answer them, they're gonna keep piling up. Passive lore is very good, and it showed out why, and it has to show up again. I think game 1 we didn't see a lot of those location opportunities, so he has to hope he sees those. He has to hope that it shows up. But if Liam starts seeing those captain hooks that we saw game 1 and in the semifinals, Jacob's going to be a lot of trouble as well, because his card advantage have been so insane. He's been able to control everything with 9+ cards in hands most of the time. But yeah, it's going to be very exciting. It doesn't get better than that.
Yeah, I agree. I think if Liam can get ahead just a little bit here and get a Captain Hook on board, if he can keep Jacob from gaining too much of an advantage, then I think he'll be able to run away with this game. It's just going to be a balancing act of
There you go.
putting the
That's
pressure
turn 1.
on. Turn 1, having the Captain Hook is great. I think in both games he didn't have a turn 1,
No.
so seeing the turn 1 here is really great for Liam, especially going first. We'll see if Jacob can respond with a turn 1 play as well. It looks like he does have something. You see the
Popsicle, sure.
drawing a card, that's good.
Something.
Keeping your hand full, that is something.
And if he can complete the popsicle package with the harem turn 4, that's even more draw, which he hasn't been able to kind of get that going in the first 2 games, and I'm assuming he's dying to get some of those in his hand. And we got blue fairy.
Man.
Oh,
Okay, this is kind of scary for Jacob. We can see Liam's hand, and Liam definitely has a Captain Hook. He has 2 at least.
2 of
Captain
them.
Hook, Thinking Happy Thoughts
we
in
go.
his hand. And so if this Captain Hook lives and Liam's able to shift a Captain Hook, draw a card from Blue Fairy, I mean, that's going to be an extremely strong.
Oh
my goodness.
Let's go.
Okay. Jacob had it. He had the baboon.
He always
one
has
of
the
two.
answer. Nice. That's a
said-
big deal.
He said, I know what you're trying to do, Liam. I watched your
seen it.
match before this one. I've seen it happen. We're not letting it happen today. Get that
Wow.
Captain Hook out of here. I love that play from Jacob. I think that saves him a lot of tempo in this game, being able to stop Liam from potentially making that shift and drawing a card, and then having such a powerful character on board like Captain Hook. Very awesome
Absolutely.
card to have.
Now those cards are kind of gonna stay in that hand for at least 2 more turns, and that means 2 less options to ink. So he only has 4 cards in hand, and usually this is the time where Amethyst wants to draw a bunch of cards, and now you got to play in ahead because you only have 2 cards in hand that's inkable, and you got to get rid of those, and that's gonna be a problem. So that was a huge baboom with a lot of exclamation points for sure.
Yeah, this is a great opportunity for Jacob to start creating board presence now that he's really slowed down Liam. And that's exactly what we see, playing the popsicle to keep his hand full, then playing the Smee that's going to be able to trade with the Maleficent pretty efficiently if the Maleficent exerts. I'm going to look at a deck list real quick because this Blue Fairy might be a little bit of an issue for Jacob. He doesn't have any characters that can challenge evasive characters. He has plenty of, I say plenty, he has 1 more Baboom in the deck. Then he has 4 Long Came Zeus, 3 Let It Goes, and 3 Grab Your Sword. So
Do you want to really waste those sources on a Blue Fairy? Like, those are very valuable.
Exactly. I think you really don't want to play Let It Go where in Along Came Zeus just to get rid of a Blue Fairy. But I think if Jacob finds a Grab Your Sword, he'd be very happy with that, because this Blue Fairy having evasive means Liam's going to be able to keep a little bit of that advantage every single turn. Very similar to locations, honestly, where Blue Fairy is going to be able to gain 1 lore every turn, and it's going to be able to do that over and over unless Jacob's able to answer it. So I'll be interested to see how much lore or how much work this Blue Fairy does, especially because we see the Jafar being played. That means Blue Fairy causes another card draw. That's extra cards Liam's going to be able to play. We know that we know Liam has Captain Hook thinking Happy Thoughts in hand. So if he plays it with it during the next turn, Blue Fairy is going to draw even
Let it
more
go
cards.
here.
I mean, Blue Fairy could get a lot of value this game and just keep Liam with the advantage and keep Liam just far enough ahead that Jacob's not quite able to catch up.
Definitely, and that will be a problem. So again, we haven't seen Grab Your Swords come out this game, but we kind of needed to deal with blue fairies and just a lot of board presence. Because if not, like you said,
Wow.
wow. Okay, that'll
We
do
saw
it.
this second
Two of 'em.
baboon. There's only 2 in the deck, people. And
and
he
2.
found both to get rid of the
Sometimes
Captain
you
Hook
just
and
have
the
the
Blue
answers.
Fairy. Sometimes it's just written in stone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
is Jacob meant to come back from this match? Liam is still ahead. Jacob doesn't have any lore. Liam has 4 lore and still a pretty good board, but Jacob is finding a lot of what he
Wow.
needs to keep Liam from really just running over him.
All the answers are showing up. It's kind of crazy how that has been working out. We were talking about the options. He drew the one of, and that's insane.
I am concerned about the hand advantage going on here. We talk about how great Amethyst is at drawing cards. We saw the Maleficent come down to draw a card. The Jafar came down and drew a card off Blue Fairy. The Jafar can also draw a card when it challenges and banishes. We saw the Rabbit just being played, which draws a card when it enters and leaves play. I think Jacob only has 3 cards in hand right now. If he can get a Hiram down, he can start using these popsicles to draw some more cards, but otherwise Jacob's going to get on a really thin hand, and Liam has a lot of stuff that he can work with.
Keep drawing more with
as well.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, he needs to find those answers to get more draw power, and Hiram has not shown out to much. And when it did, there was no items to complement in the game, earlier games. So yeah, it's just the question becomes: can Liam just control the board constantly while being that draw power that he has, while Jacob runs away, tries to get an answer because he's running out of cards, and well, and I feel like a lot of the cards are just needs the other card to work right now on the board, and it's just missing. Like we need the John Silver to get locations to get going. We need Hiram to get rid of the popsicles to draw more cards. So like half of the board is there, but the other isn't.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Jacob just can't quite get all of the pieces together in this game. And I mean, Liam's deck combination and his deck in general is just so good at keeping an advantage when it has it. And so, like for instance, Jafar's stat lines are looking great right now because Jacob healed 2 off of the Smee, but Liam's still going to be able to challenge in with the Jafar Dreadnought, banish the Smee. Jafar is still going to live,
draw the card,
and draw a card. And so, like, Liam's making favorable trades while still keeping advantage and still taking tempo. That's exactly what we see.
Yeah. It's just at least next turn the Jafar goes if you want to deal with it, but it's just a lot of value that it absorbs, a lot of value that Jafar just gets him with the draw and getting rid of 2 cards potentially.
Yeah, it's a ton of value from that card for sure. We see Liam exert. 4 ink to play a Queen's Castle. Liam saying, you know what? I saw what you did with locations last turn.
My turn.
I can do that too.
That card is such a good location too. Like it's such a big problem.
Yeah, I mean it's arguably one of the best costs or one of the best locations in the game because as we see now, Liam's going to move the Merlin Rabbit over to the Queen's Castle. The Queen's Castle has an ability that says at the start of your turn, you draw a card for every character that's at this location. And so having something like Merlin Rabbit in the location means that if Liam decides to say quest with the rabbit and it gets banished, he gets to draw a card. If the rabbit is still there at the start of turn, he still gets to draw a card. So it's a win-win for him either way. He doesn't exert it anyway. He says, I'm going to leave it up. I want to keep this draw up. And currently, Jacob doesn't have enough strength on board to get rid of the castle.
Hercules.
Also, that is a big one. Hercules coming down. It's only 6 strength. Though. Yeah, so it's not going to be able to outright banish the Queen's Castle on its own. But we saw how much work it did last game with the 2 resist. Having that much strength in general is going to be really strong. So we'll see if this Hercules can help Jacob catch up at all. We see the Queen's Castle gaining value already, gaining 2 lore, drawing an extra card for the turn. Likely him needs it, you know.
Yeah, it's not like he doesn't have any cards in hand, and he's probably gonna draw more draw options too. Like I don't know, it could be anything. It's just this everything draws cards at this point, and he's gonna find something that'll do that even more. And it's just a constant cycle of going through the deck. And guess what? There's more answers that he's just gonna find that's gonna deal with these problematic cards like Hercules. That's kind of oh wow, there you go. Just drew 2 more because he
Speaking of
needed
drawing
it.
cards, yeah, we're gonna
No.
exert the Merlin Rabbit at the location that draws me cards so that I can draw 2 extra cards.
And then I'm gonna ink a card that draws a card to then play a card that draws cards.
Hey,
Look.
the blue fairy I think is a great thing to drop for Liam. It's gonna allow him to draw some extra cards.
Oh,
We're
there's the boy.
immediately we're immediately getting value playing a Captain Hook. And this Captain Hook is big too because Hercules did a lot of work last game, but Captain Hook can banish Hercules in 1 challenge. So as soon as Hercules is exerted, then Captain Hook can clean Hercules right up. So Liam's building a really strong presence here. We mentioned earlier, Blue Fairy can be really strong having evasive. It can be really difficult for Jacob to answer, especially while he's low on cards. He only has 2 cards in hand right now. And even something like a Grab Your Sword isn't particularly great. We see him play a
Oh,
Bayou
that's actually
instead.
nice.
Yeah, that's
Use
not
that
too bad.
resist.
Right. It gives John Silver resist +1. It also gives John Silver +1 lore. And if Jacob decides to move John Silver to the location or Hercules to the Bayou and quest with them, then he can dig through his deck a little bit, having to draw and discard a card if he's really looking for a specific card he wants.
I feel like at this point. Oh, okay.
Okay, we see it. Grab Your Swords coming in.
That'll do. That'll do.
It'll get rid of the Blue Fairy,
which is really effective here. And then do 2 damage to everything else, which is really important. I know the Hercules will get traded with Captain Hook here, but John Silver, that's kind of a nice option there now.
Yeah, it's definitely nice that things have damage on them. I think Jacob's having to decide right now, do I challenge the Queen's Castle and get rid of the Queen's Castle? Do I challenge the Merlin while it has damage on it? Because what you don't want is for Liam to bounce the Merlin with a fox or with a snake and getting rid of all of that damage. But he looks like he's challenging the location. He doesn't want Liam gaining passive lore and drawing extra cards for the turn. I really like that play. And
that would have gotten so much value down the road very fast. Yeah.
Yeah, tons of value. And so we see a Grab Your Sword in Liam's hand, which I think is really interesting because right now both of Jacob's characters are utilizing resist. And a Grab Your Sword kind of like doesn't mean anything to Liam right now. Whereas in Liam versus Blake's game, in this scenario,
oh my goodness,
a Grab Your Sword would be game ending, right? Because you could wipe Jacob's board and it's going to be really difficult for him to come back. Jacob utilizing the resist keyword allows him to avoid something like that and at least stay in the game and say, hey, like you're not going to be able to easily get rid of this John Silver or this Hercules, so that I can at least start challenging or trading with your characters and try to catch up.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, we're just gonna get the trade here. Definitely the best option because you have another Captain Hook coming up. That will get rid of it. So right now, Liam just has options and opportunities here to kind of clear out everything because Jacob has no cards in his hand, and Liam's gonna be sitting here with a lot of options and a lot of cards that just has no answers coming back to him.
Yeah, Jacob has only 1 card in hand, drawing just top decking currently, and Liam has done an amazing job at really balancing out how much he extends, right? Like he's found 3 blue fairies this game, but he's only ever had 1 on board in case there's something like a Grab Your Sword that comes out. And he knows that Jacob is going to have a difficult time finding answers to Blue Fairy, and Blue Fairy is going to keep ticking up lore. And so just Liam's done a great job at being able to put enough threats on board that it matters, but not overextend so that Jacob can
the Titans,
use
Captain
that
Hook,
for his advantage.
Okay, this is definitely a situation. Being able to kind of see what card you want to get with the Bayou is kind of nice, because now you can utilize the Bayou to see what other card you could have drawn underneath the card you just drew now. So that allows Jacob to dig a little bit more, to find that grab your sword that I would assume he's desperately looking for.
Yeah, grab your sword would be great right now, and I totally agree. Having the option to dig at least one card deeper if the top deck just doesn't do anything. You always hate that when you're in top deck mode and you draw a
Mm-hmm.
card and it's just like, this is useless right now. He has a way to uh, dig a little bit deeper, which I
But
wonder if Liam values that any, if he
I
bothers to
don't.
get rid of the Bayou or if he's just going to keep questing.
I think if like Liam doesn't have to. I mean, he just has options. Like he's just casually browsing through his like entire deck in his hand. Like there's like 6 cards in there, and that's really good. That's gonna be a really powerful thing because all of those cards in his hand is a problem that Jacob cannot deal with right now. And now,
Yeah.
if like exactly what he's doing, going wide is the way to go, which has been very very successful when he has been very advantageous throughout this entire tournament.
Yeah, even if Jacob finds the exact answer that he needs here, he's still going to be sitting on no cards. He does find the grab your
So
sword,
there we
which is
go.
pretty big. Like that's
Oh
you
yeah,
see
there's
him
celebration.
cheering. That's exactly what he needed to
Yeah.
stay in the game. It's going to get rid of the blue fairy, get rid of
Everything.
everything except for the Captain Hook that Liam played. Like, man, that just turned the tides of this game and made a game that was virtually over because Liam had such a huge advantage. Okay,
Wow.
now Jacob can still claw his way back. Liam has a ton of cards in his hand, ton of resources to work with. But if Jacob finds the cards that he needs, if he can start drawing a couple extra cards, get some pretty big bodies on board,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not over till it's over. There's still a
It's
chance
not.
that he can come back from this.
It's not like Liam is super ahead. It's 4-8. It's totally next turn just get back to, oh well, when you have cards that just draws you more cards, it's gonna be a problem. But it's definitely the thing you're looking for. A lot of heart of the cards moment in this entire finals. Really, it's been fantastic to just watch the competition really take over. But we see another blue fairy Captain Hook combination that has been really really strong this entire tournament, and finals have been again just an MVP like performance by those 2 cards.
Yeah, I think Liam has played at least 3 blue fairies. If not, this is his 4th blue fairy, which is just crazy. Like those cards are so difficult for Jacob to answer. And Jacob's found a lot of his answers, right? He used Baboom on one of them. He's able to hit one with Grab Your Sword. And so it's just pretty crazy that Liam has been able to find these cards as good as they are.
Oh
He is
wow.
okay. He finds an Along Came Zeus off the top to get rid of the Captain Hook. That's pretty good.
But not that
Okay,
passive. Wow.
I
There's a
wonder what he's
lot of
looking at.
hooks.
That's 3 Captain Hooks in Liam's deck. That's pretty good. If you're Jacob, you know that that's going to be much less of a threat going forward. Liam is playing 4. I don't know if he has another one in hand or not, but I mean, Jacob has really had to fight to stay in this game, and I mean, he's still holding on just
Harem
barely.
would be so nice right now. Ugh.
Yeah, that would definitely bring him back into the game a little bit. I feel like if he's going to draw a Hiram, he needs to draw it now because Liam's getting closer and
Rabbit.
closer to 20. The
Drawing
longer
more
that
cards
Queen's
to play
Castle
more.
stays on board, the worse it's going to be. Unfortunately,
This
Jacob's
is looking like an
Hook.
avalanche.
Yeah, Jacob's Captain Hook's not going to be able to banish the Queen's Castle next turn because it can only deal 3 damage. So Liam's deciding to say, you can keep removing my cards as much as you want, but I'm just going to keep
drawing
playing
more.
threats. Yeah.
Yeah, now
And he
you need
still
another
has.
grab your sword. Like, what?
Yeah, and even a grab your sword doesn't do all that much because I mean, it gets rid of the
Exactly.
blue fairy, but it doesn't do anything else.
Ink the
And he-
smash. Sure. What? It's just Liam's game at this point. Like he's just having to just do anything he wants, however he wants. He has total control of the situation right now. And again, a manner a little too late. But it's just it doesn't even get rid of the location here, and it's Liam's game right now. And there's not a lot of answers that he can keep top decking that will solve these problems.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this, right? Like Amethyst Steel, as soon as it gets ahead, it's hard to control it, especially when there's so much card advantage, and there's so much board presence. There's so much. All half of Liam's cards in his deck either draw him a card or gain him a lure, and so that's exactly what we've
Oh,
seen Liam do here.
another Fresno on
Is
the other side.
just use the efficiency that comes with Amethyst and Steel cards to his advantage. And I mean, Jacob has fought hard. Like Jacob has
Very.
found so many answers that he really needed to find to stay in this game. And it's still, unfortunately, not
Mhm.
enough for Liam to just close it out. I mean, he has so many cards in his hand.
He just
I mean,
keeps drawing more too, and like Liam has been so good at like focusing on just gaining more advantage with his lines that he's been playing. Like all of his lines have been very focused on just how can I gain more advantage? How can I get more cards into my hand? And he's just been so efficient. Just all the lines he's been playing very, very fantastic. The location has been really clutch as well with more draw power. And we're just seeing him draw his entire deck in front of us with like 10 cards in his hand. And it just shows how well he's able to see those lines to gain advantage, make sure the game is just kind of constricted more and more as the turns go by.
yeah, Liam presents game on board this turn, and unfortunately, Jacob draws a Mr. Smee. That's not going to do it. So I think we have our champion.
Oh, wow. I believe that's it.
Yeah, that's game. We
Wow,
have our
ladies and
champion for
gentlemen.
the Glimmer Gauntlet. Congrats to Liam from the Illuminators playing Amethyst Steel to take it all the way from the start. And now
Wow.
we're here.
Wow, this has been fantastic. What a game 3 to end up. Just phenomenal way to end the Glimmer Gauntlet finals. Like you said, you cannot write a better script than like it just doesn't get better than that. The first finals ever, game 3, everything on the line, and we got our first ever winner. What a game.
I absolutely agree, Breezy. Congrats to Liam. The series was neck and neck all the way up to this point. It has been an absolute honor to cast with you, my brother. I'm very excited. We have an interview with Liam coming up as the champion. And I think that's going to be it. We'll be right back with myself and Teddy interviewing Liam. So stay tuned for that.
all of us. I need my mic over here in my face. That would be smart. Go back to chat. I'm gonna pull up. Or first, before we quickly do this, I am going to update the bracket. Liam, it's 2-1. Who won our predictions? I think
No one.
Tops not. Anyone who tops North prediction tops North is who won. Picked you as, I mean, nearly everyone who picked Liam straight up to the top. He won 4 points. All right. You're good. Liam, you good? Brandon, we good to head into our interview?
I'm good.
Well, Aaron says we're live and people can hear.
Oh, that's true. Hello, everyone. We are back, and we have our 2024 Glimmer Gauntlet champion, Liam from the Lumiteers. Congratulations, man. That was an amazing championship match.
Oh, thank you. It was an awesome match. Like I couldn't have ended it in better. Like 3 games and an amazing opponent and nail biter. I don't know. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I know. Brandon, as you were casting it, came down to the wire, really.
Yeah.
Jacob had a lot of answers in that third game.
It was pretty crazy. Both of Liam's games came down to game 3s, right? So like you really had to fight your way up here, and they were awesome matches to watch. I couldn't have asked for a better finals match, especially. And yeah, I mean, like Teddy said, Jacob was just drawing answer after answer to like stay in the game, and you just couldn't quite get there. You did such a great job managing your resources in your hand so that like you weren't overextending, and every time Jacob did find an answer, you were able to play out even more answers. So very well done. Congratulations, Liam.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, go ahead, Liam. Cut you off there.
Go ahead, Teddy. I'm sorry. No, I was gonna say thanks for not mentioning all my misplays and terrible lines. I took quite a few.
I mean, when I was watching, I didn't really see any. It looked all smooth. I don't know. Could you like give an example of maybe a line that you thought you should have played but didn't during the games?
Oh, I'm trying to think of specific ones that come to mind. There are times I should have quested and I didn't. There's silly mistakes like, I left Captain Hook thinking happy thoughts. Reddy not wanting him to be taken out by, Hook Forceful Duelist when Forceful Duelist can't challenge him.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you're all putting that out. There's several times like that where I misplayed, and sometimes that one lore like makes a difference. And then there are times I, inked things I probably shouldn't have in the early game, and hard to remember exact details, but I definitely felt in both of my matches that both of my opponents played better games than me, like hands down.
Really?
In terms of skill, like yeah, I think I made a lot of mistakes, and I think my colors bailed me out a bit. And my top decks.
Yeah, Jacob.
Yeah.
Jacob's top decks in game 2 were insane. Like Hercules, Maleficent, and Manor. I was amazed. It was great.
That's a great example of a misplay. You all didn't see it. I was 1 damage short in game 2 from taking out both things on the board. Just 1 short. I had 2 grab your swords in hand. And so that would have given me the 1 extra to take out the Maleficent. But I had 8 ink at the start of that turn, and I didn't ink the previous turn.
Wow.
But I had the 2 Graveler
No.
Swords. I had the 2, and I knew I had them. So if I
Yeah.
was doing the math, I would have been like, okay, ink this turn, so next turn I've got that line available, and I just didn't see the Dark Manor coming, and I didn't even. So it's an example of he probably still would have won it, but I could have survived another turn maybe.
Yeah, I think when playing any card game, there's always those moments that you realize, oh crap, I should have done this or did that. But then, like you did say, Amethyst Steel, especially in this type of format, obviously we saw Zach Bivens play and nearly win the AK in Georgia. And obviously, he wasn't playing an exact list to you, what you were playing, but that like the low to the ground Amethyst Steel, it does work. And obviously, you took full advantage, obviously, with like the Floodborns and the Blue Fairies. And I don't remember which game, but you got 2 Blue Fairies down early on, and your hand never really looked like it was that small. And that was awesome to see. It was just like how basically I think that was the perfect way to build with these colors, and being in a format where you have to basically, you got given this deck, no choice.
Yeah.
And you built a deck, and you used the cards to your available. And obviously Amethyst is like disgusting. It's really good, and obviously Steel pairs well with it. So yeah, the deck was great. I loved seeing it in play. I think I got to edit one of your videos as well, and just watching everything come down, it was really awesome.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I lucked out with the color combos. Obviously, I didn't pick it. But what this deck, so it's not an aggressive deck. It really is not meant to be aggro. Although it has, early turn Smees with 2 lures. Smee is more of a control play, actually. When you get a first turn hook on the board, or you get one on a little bit later, he can avoid the damage to himself. But it's really to get a 3/3 on turn 2 down. Because as you can see, what this deck really wants to do is it just survive into the late game. And then if it gets to the point where it replaces every card it plays. And when you do that, you can make even like inefficient trades. Like I can make silly trades, getting rid of stuff on the board, because I'm just gonna replace it, and that's where the deck wants to get to. So it really just has to survive, the early and mid game.
Yeah, and something that I noticed, and Brandon, you could probably echo this, and you said it while casting, the Captain Hook, Thinking a Happy Thought, a card that is never played in regular play, was really an MVP in this with how much work it put in.
Yeah, it's a card. I was actually surprised by how good it was. The downside is it's uninkable, and I'm not sure if you all saw, but I ended up with so many of them in the early game, each game, that it really messed up my inking choices. But what makes it good in this format is, it does pair with the Blue Fairy well, and if you can do a hook Blue Fairy Happy Thoughts line on turns 1, 2, 3, it's just bonkers. But then this format, I think, tends towards aggro and smaller, lower cost things. And when you can't have anything cost 3 or lower challenging into it, it sticks around. And you saw that kind of mess up Blake in game 2, where the hook he had answers. He had the crab. He had things to run into it, and hook's just flying around. Like, I don't know.
That's something I wanted to ask you about. Is obviously, like we mentioned, you didn't choose this ink pairing. It was given to you. And so then you had to analyze, I'm sure, like everybody else had to, what is available in all of the ink colors, and you had to come to a decision on what your deck build was and what you thought was going to be brought to the tournament. You mentioned you thought that aggro was going to be prevalent, so you teched in the hook Happy Thoughts and you teched in the Grab Your Swords. I think you're the only person in the entire gauntlet that's running 4 total Grab Your Swords. And I mean, that line, like you said, of being able to shift hook on 3 if you need to sing Grab Your Swords is super great. But I mean, was that what you were expecting from the gauntlet? Was there anything that you were like really scared of that people might bring that might counter your deck? Or were you more or less concerned with aggro the whole way through?
The aggro is really what I was most worried about. I really thought this was going to be a very aggressive format. And for that reason, I mean, you hit the nail on the head, Brandon. Like the 4 Grab Your Swords is really, it's like get to turn 5 and then clear the board and then it'd be able to reset a little bit. That was kind of, the thought process. And so, that's really where the teching went, was how do I survive, turns 1 through 4, maybe get to turn 5 where I can start singing Along Came Zeus and grab your swords, and then from there, how do I win in the late game? Well, it's just through cards, it's through card draw, and yeah, that was really it. That's really what I was most worried about, honestly, was aggressive, low to the ground cards.
And obviously, you didn't have Ruby, and while Be Prepared was legal in this format, when you're thinking about aggro, Grab Your Swords really worked as a Be Prepared-esque card, because we saw it in Blake's match, and more in Blake's match. You just kind of cleared his board on multiple times because all of his stuff was 2 and lower. And I think like that was obviously your choice in the Grab Your Swords, but was that something you thought about? Was it being like a replacement for Be Prepared? Or were you just kind of thinking, okay, this is a way for help me get back in the game once you hit like turn 5?
I mean, yeah, it was absolutely a substitute for Be Prepared. It was I needed wide removal, because I really thought there was a lot of decks that were going to go wide, and I didn't think I could go wide that quickly, because it's shifting. This deck is built to play, either Hook on 1 or Jafar on 2, and then shift on 3 or shift Jafar on 4.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I'm utilizing those shifts to draw cards off Blue Fairy, or maybe get Jafar Dreadnought's card draw, or even shifting to Sing, Friends or something like that, my board stays narrow. And so if my opponent has an answer for my 1 or 2, characters that I have on board, then I'm in a bit of a spot. So I really wanted, I needed enough removal to allow me to, and especially mass removal, to allow me to get back into it.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to mention that clear on Blake. Like, I don't know if you all saw it. I got really lucky this tournament, y'all. I think you all, every caster throughout is like, he top decked what he needed to. I shifted a Hook into, I think, Happy Thoughts. I drew a card off the Blue Fairy, and the card that I drew was Grab Your Swords.
Oh.
And I said, okay.
Pretty great.
Turn
I'll
to
just play it
Sing.
immediately.
Yeah.
And so I there was a lot of luck. Like every one of my opponents was amazing. Their decks were great. Like it was just a mix of, there's a lot of luck.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the fun things about this format of only being able to use rares and lower is, it makes you think outside of the box for your decks. And there are some ink colors that lose much more than others in a format like this. And Amethyst doesn't lose a lot. Steel actually loses quite a bit, but they have a lot, as you've been able to show, that's still very valuable. And like being paired with Amethyst, I find it really funny. I just counted almost 30 of your cards in your 60 card deck in some form or another, like draw a card. And then like it's about 30 if you count Blue Fairy and the other shift characters. And that's just one of the things that Amethyst has going for it, right? Like not losing super vital, important characters or cards in this format. And then also being the ink color that can just draw a stupid amount of cards very easily, definitely sets you up. But, as much as somebody is lucky, getting through a tournament like this also requires some amount of skill. So, don't put yourself too much on the back burner there in your ability, because everybody makes misplays, but you did a fantastic job, especially in those last matches.
Mm-hmm.
They were so close, and I think everybody played very well.
Yeah, I totally agree. I appreciate that, Brandon. Yeah, I have trouble thinking of myself as a good player. But what you said is true. Like I was thinking about it because I thought you might ask, like, what would you change if you could put,
Mm-hmm.
super rares or above it? I don't know what I would put in. I can't think of anything that I would sub out of this deck in order to
Whole New World possibly.
put in a super rare above. I don't think so. And here's why. Like, that's an interesting point, and you could sing it with Hook. But I found in most of my games, one of the things I was hyper focused on was my opponent's hand size. And I would ask often, and I'd watch their hand size, because I knew there's a moment where, unless my opponent's running Amethyst, there's a moment where they're just exhausted. And it happened to Jake in game, it happened to Jacob in game 3. It happened to Jacob in game 1. And Jacob in game 2. Like every game, and you saw other opponents too, where they just reach this point where they're top decking or they're drawing 1 or 2 cards. And I would never at that point sing a Whole New World, because I'm thinking next turn I'm drawing Maleficent, next turn I'm drawing a Friends or a Rabbit or a Blue Fairy or a Dreadnought that I can shift and draw a card off of, or a Castle. And so I know, if we're at a point where both of us are low on cards, like it's just a matter of time, and I'm going to start being able to do my thing, and I would never want to refill their hand.
Yeah, that is fair. Well, why don't you tell everyone about your charity that you chose? We have raised just over $700. We want to say thank you to everyone for donating, but tell us about CASA and what they do.
CASA it's a fantastic organization. First, I have to say that every organization that everybody was playing for is amazing. I couldn't, even, Aaron was editing videos last night for that you all played for the, highlighting the charities that people chose, and every one of them is just incredible. And I really appreciate what everybody picked and the work that all of them do. But CASA is an organization, it's a fantastic organization. In full disclosure, like Erin works for CASA as well, and she's been passionate about it for many years, and I've been passionate about it for many years. They're a national organization, where there's a national branch to the organization up in Washington, and then there's local branches spread out around the country. And so chances are wherever you are, there's a CASA program there. And what they do is they're really trying to fill this need in many communities where they're trying to help and take care of kids who are abused and neglected in the foster care system, or who otherwise may have nobody else. So they do this a number of ways, but a big one is
we may have lost Liam.
Yeah, we may have lost him here.
Oh, no. I do.
For that child.
Oh, there he is.
No.
Is he back?
Is he back?
Was I out?
You did cut out
No.
for like 15 seconds.
No, it was brilliant what I said. Oh no, where did I lose you?
It was like, but what they do is, I think, the last thing you said.
Of course. What they do. No, I'll try to say it quicker than I did before I cut out again. What they do is they support kids in the foster care system, but the biggest way they do it is by providing, they recruit and they train, volunteers to serve as, you can think of an analogy as kind of big brothers, big sisters, except it's more than that. The advocate is there to partner with the child, learn about them, figure out what's in the child's best interest, but then to go to court and advocate, to the judge, to the system about what they think is best for the child, and to help the court make the best decision possible for this child. Every case is different. Every case is unique. Every child needs something different. And so this organization really fills a gap. And for a lot of these kids, who are abused and neglected or in terrible situations, their CASA advocate may be the only person in their life who's there, who's consistent, who's advocating on their behalf. So, for anybody watching, there are CASA programs everywhere. Chances are, there's one in your area, and they always need volunteers, and there are always cases, sadly. So it's a great organization.
Yeah, and on a personal note, I think I may have mentioned this to you before. My family was a foster family for nearly 6 to 8 years, so I know all about that. It's an amazing organization. I love it. It's a great cause. So you guys will you'll be getting that money. We'll figure that out for the donations. But that was the 2024 Glimmer Gauntlet. I just tried to combine 3 different names there. Liam, congratulations. You have a special trophy coming from Lorcana Queen here in a few weeks. We also had the predictions, and Tops North, you guys watching this, you won a Into the Inklands trove that you will be getting. We will reach out and figure all that information out. But that was the stream. We hope you all enjoyed. Make sure I'm gonna leave the donation link up for a little bit longer. If you guys do want to go donate, it would be awesome. Thank you so much for everyone watching. Liam, again, congratulations. Brandon, thank you for being a great caster and running this today. But that is all, everyone. We will see you guys in the next